Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Inherited His Father's Quirk? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Chapter 1. Undertow. Young Izuku Midoriya was 4 years old when his quirk first manifested. It was your average day in the Midoriya household, with Inko playing with her child. Izuku, still trying to get a quirk to activate, lifted his hand forward and focused, trying to drag something to him like his mother. Izuku could have sworn he felt something warm move into his chest while Inko busied herself with her laundry, unaware of any change. She looks over to him and smiles. "Oh, Izuku, don't worry. Our appointment with Dr. Tsubasa will be soon. We can figure out your quirk there." "Well, maybe just another try," Izuku announced cheerfully, making yet another attempt. Suddenly, a purple hue surrounded one of his many All Might action figures and floated towards him. Mommy, look. I'm doing it. I have a quirk." Izuku cheered, his mother swooping him up in a hug, her eyes gushing like fire hydrants. "Oh my baby," she cried, holding her child tightly. She attempted to use her quirk to pick up his discarded toy, only to get no response. She tried again, and still nothing. "What's wrong, Mommy?" the younger Midoriya asked, looking at Inko curiously. "I'm not sure, honey. Perhaps we can look into that with your appointment as well," Inko says, not wanting to worry her baby over what could just be a strange day. Eventually, they would make their way to the Quirk Hospital, where the doctor, a bald man with a rather nice mustache and goggles, would see them. Upon inquiring about Izuku's father, Inko replied, "Oh well, Hisashi and I met a long time ago. For some reason, he disappeared right before I discovered I was PRGNT with Izuku. All I know for sure is that he had some kind of fire breath quirk." Dr. Tsubasa nods in response. "I see. Well, based on my studies, there is something I would like to try if you wouldn't mind." "Of course," Inko said, looking worriedly at Izuku, who was sitting on the examination bed, playing with his figurines. The doctor turns to him, getting the boy's attention. "All right, young man, do you remember what you did the first time your quirk activated?" Izuku nods. "My All Might action figure was beside Mommy, so I reached out my hand and tried to pull it toward me. At first it didn't work, but then I felt something warm in my chest, and the next time I tried I could pull it to me like Mommy did," he says excitedly, eliciting a small laugh from Tsubasa. "Ha, interesting. Young man, what I want you to do is direct your hand towards your mother again, and try picturing that warm feeling going back to her. Can you do that for me?" Once again, Izuku nods, doing as instructed. The warm feeling from earlier pulses, and he concentrates. After a couple of moments, he's finally able to properly get the quirk to transfer back to his mother, who feels the warm sensation her son described. She tried pulling Izuku's fallen toy to her, and her quirk finally responded, much to Inko's shock. "Oh my, how is that possible?" Hiding a fiendish smile within himself, Tsubasa would explain. "It would seem your boy has developed a mutation allowing him to pull quirks from others and utilize them himself. Such a thing is most remarkable. I would recommend repetitions of him transferring your quirk for a bit, so that we can avoid more accidents in the future." Inko was still shocked. "Oh my, that is a powerful ability, simply amazing," she says cheerfully. "Do you think I'd be a cool hero with this quirk? I could be like Bim, no more quirks for bad guys." Izuku's small voice rang out, causing Tsubasa to chuckle once more. "Oh, I am certain you would be quite dangerous with a quirk like that." Inko did not like the way he said that, but the two were able to leave. As they left, Tsubasa picked up a phone. "It's manifested just as you thought it would. We can make the arrangements immediately." After a couple of days of repetition, Izuku gets the hang of transferring quirks. Inko can't help but be proud of how quickly her son was grasping and experimenting with his quirk. Eventually, Mitsuki would visit, bringing over Katsuki Bakugo. While the two adults mingled, Izuku ran up to him. Kaken, guess what?" "What is it, Deku?" the younger Bakugo replied in an annoyed tone. "I finally got my quirk." It's so cool. Though yours is obviously way cooler. The younger Midoriya could barely contain his excitement. Well duh. What kinda lame quirk did a Deku like you get anyway? I can take people's quirks and give them back. Izuku said, though pausing nervously. I know it sounds like the boogeyman, but I can use it to be a good guy. I can stop villains from using their powers. Katsuki blinks, mildly impressed. Whoa, really? That might not be as great as my quirk, but that is pretty cool. Can you show me, though you better give my quirk back right away, you hear me? He said in a serious tone, getting a quick nod from Izuku. Of course. Here I can show you. I can take it from about right here, Izuku says as he gets a few feet away from Katsuki. He lifts his hand forward. This time, it's a tingling sensation in the palms of his hands. He holds them like Katsuki would, and suddenly, smoke puffs come out. See? Now I'll give it back. Izuku said as he demonstrated the quirk. Katsuki was stunned. He felt nothing from his quirk being taken, and yet as Izuku tested it out, he found that he couldn't use it or feel it at all. Just as anxiety was starting to settle in his stomach, Izuku returned Katsuki's quirk, a familiar tingle returning to the child's hands. Okay, I gotta admit, Deku, that's pretty cool. Hey, All Might's supposed to be on TV soon, let's go see. And with that, the two children run off to see their hero speaking before a crowd, not knowing that this would be the last interaction the two would have for some time. One day, Izuku Midoriya just never returned from school. Police searched, but no evidence could be found. The cameras were on the fritz, and the last stranger to interact with him, Dr. Tsubasa, disappeared without a trace. Worse still, the hospital records showed no such doctor working there. Normally, heroes would be dispatched, but for some reason, the paperwork seemed to keep getting lost, messages never sent, much to Inko's horror and grief. The detective who would have been put on the case never got the calls or any indication of a missing person. As years passed, it was her friendship with Mitsuki that kept her going, and a dim, but ever-present hope that her son was out there, and would eventually find his way. For Izuku Midoriya, it was a normal day at preschool. People were rather apprehensive about his quirk, but to him, it didn't matter. When it ended, so too did his sense of normalcy as a van came, and exiting from it was a man with a shock of green hair, green eyes, and a smile, claiming to be his father. Izuku remembers being taken to a strange place, where his father's form shifted. He was a masked man with a dark suit and a darker aura. Izuku could feel his quirk. It felt like his, but there were so many others attached that he could sense. It is a joy to finally meet you in person, Izuku. I suppose proper introductions are in order. I am your father, though my true family name is Shigaraki. Learn it well, little one, for that is now yours also. All for One said with a smile that would seem menacing if it weren't under a mask. W.A.? What about Mommy? See, can't she come too? Nervous tears began welling up in the child's eyes, not fully grasping what was happening. All for One stooped down to his son's level. My son, I regret to inform you that your mother has been in a grave accident, which has rendered her unable to care for you. The tears began flowing fully now. W.H. Izuku squeaked out. The Demon King placed a hand on his son's shoulder. I know this is hard to hear, Izuku, but do not worry. All for One paused, his sick grin widening as he got to bastardize his greatest enemy's phrase. Because I am here. Chapter 2, Erosion. Age 5. As Izuku adjusted to the grief of losing his mother, All for One consoled him. There would be times when the two would talk of Inko, and what a special woman she was. Izuku was sitting in a dimly lit room, large enough, though, to make him feel smaller than he already was. In his pocket, he fumbled with the All Might figurine absent-mindedly, sniffling as he remembered his mother's warm expression and soothing voice. All for One enters from another room, purple mist fading from the threshold. Izuku, my dear boy, what is troubling you? He asks, his voice clinical, though strangely soft. I miss Mommy. I want my mommy. The child said tearfully. All for One takes a seat beside him, putting a hand on his shoulder. I know. She was a special woman, your mother. She always wanted you to grow strong, to use the wonderful gift you have been given and make her proud. Izuku sniffled more in response, tears flowing freely. He wiped his nose with his sleeve before speaking. I want to be a hero like All Might. Mommy said I could. At this, All for One tilts his head and chuckles. Perhaps one day, my son, you will be greater. But all great heroes must start with practice. He said with a hint of enthusiasm. All for One held out his hand, bringing a couple of quirks to the forefront. Here, take a quirk, study it like you've always loved to do. Izuku wiped the tears from his eyes and nods, reaching his hand forward. The quirk came easily like the others, a warm feeling again. As Izuku activated it, a blinding beam of light glowed from it. This is an air-based quirk, air cannon. With a snap, I could blast someone away or stop a fall from high up. There's a lot this could be used for. Izuku said, his mind absorbing the knowledge like a sponge. All for One claps a hand on Izuku's shoulder. Excellently deduced, my son. You see now what you have? The power to change things, to break apart this fragile society and bring about something new from its ashes. Izuku blinked. That sounds like something a villain would say, though, the child said, a knot forming in his stomach. I suppose it does, but it is a matter of perspective, dear boy. We can discuss the nuances a little more when you've had the time and education to grasp the idea fully. All for One said, and before Izuku could reply, a disgruntled yell came from the other room. Gah, stupid game. Kurogyri, I want a new one. Which caused Izuku to tilt his head. Who is that? He asked. Ah, that would be your new sibling, Tamura Shigaraki. It would seem his anger has gotten the better of him. Once he calms down, perhaps the two of you can properly meet. Izuku nods, allowing himself to be walked to his room. It was rather nice, a large rug to cover the cold floor, a comfortable bed, and a bookcase whose shelves contain empty books for Izuku to write in for when the desire for quirk analysis takes hold. He takes out the All Might figurine, looking at it with sad eyes. I don't know if I like this place, All Might. Something's wrong, he muttered before hiding it and going to sleep. Age 7. By now, Izuku had met with Tamura. The two would play video games together regularly. When a game was too hard, the two would tackle the game together, and the game would be beaten in no time flat. Of course, there would be days when Tamura wants to play a more competitive game, and when Izuku thrashes him through superior strategy, he gets angry, throwing the controller at Izuku. On days like those, Izuku would rather avoid his brother. Sensei would often rebuke this behavior. Now, Tamura, you let your frustration cloud you. Learn from your younger brother's observational skills, just as he learns from your tenacity. He had said at one point. His education with All for One was beginning to pick up steam. More often than not, he would spend time reviewing hero and villain fights, analyzing them, and delivering that analysis to his fath, to Sensei. One day after such a task, Izuku walks up to All for One. Sensei, I finished that analysis you asked for. The hero uses a teleportation quirk. It's fast, but it requires them to have a line of sight to their location. If someone had a smoke quirk, or something that could block his vision, and thus his teleportation. Sensei's tone came out warm, yet calculating. Very good, Izuku. Imagine using such power to outmaneuver this fool of a hero, and then to take what is rightfully yours. He rests his hand on Izuku's shoulder, the grip always too tight. Now, try to take another quirk from me, and return air cannon. He commands, and Izuku nods, extending his hand. It has been getting easier and easier to use his quirk. The swap happened almost instantaneously. As the new quirk was obtained, Midoriya felt his body tense as his developing muscles grew ever so slightly. It's a strength-enhancing quirk. Even without activating it, it's passively improving my musculature. On activation, it should double that. Sensei nods. Indeed, you are learning well, my son. Soon, you will have what is needed to change this world and put those foolish enough to stand in our way in their place. Ages 10 to 12. By now, Izuku knew the hideout like the back of his hand. His bookcase was now filled with analysis journals as he observed hero quirks, though he never felt right about giving Sensei such information. Tamura could be seen in his room, talking with Kurogiri about gathering miscellaneous villains for some kind of raid operation. When he was 10, All for One and Izuku watched as All Might saved people from a burning school. Sensei shook his head. See how they mindlessly throw themselves at All Might's feet, my son? They do not know that his power is borrowed. Someday, you will be the one to collect it, one for all. Izuku couldn't help but question his father's obsession. To him, All Might was just doing what he did best. It wasn't until after he turned 11 that things started to shift between him and Sensei. This time, Sensei took him down to the basement level, a room of chains and bets, with Dr. Tsubasa. No, his real name was Garaki, who worked feverishly. Izuku squinted at the doctor, vaguely remembering the face, but having no time to make the connection as Sensei walked him to a locked cell. Inside was the teleportation hero. The hero's eyes widened, seeing a child with such a monster behind him. What game is this? The hero asked, looking towards a child whose eyes were now a dull green. Izuku, do you recognize this man? Sensei asked, to which Izuku nodded. Yes, Sensei, it's the teleportation hero, Blindside. I analyzed a few years ago. Why is he here? An excellent question, my son. Today, you will be learning what it is to truly take a quirk for yourself from those who are unworthy of theirs. Izuku gulped, taking a quirk from a hero? The hero in question continued to stare. Kid, listen to me, you don't have to do this. Others are looking for us, they can hell dash. Silence. All for One commanded, snapping his fingers and blasting the hero to the other side of the cell. Now, Izuku. Reluctantly, Midoriya raised his hand, feeling the man's quirk flow into himself. A knot formed in his stomach. He hated this. This was a hero, and he never truly understood what his sensei meant by changing the world. All for One clasped his hand over Izuku's shoulder again, this time granting him air cannon again. Good, now you must snuff out his flame. We cannot afford a loose end, now can we? All for One questioned, motioning towards the man in the cell. You're sick, the hero coughed out, blood spraying from his mouth. Izuku shook, the weight of the All Might figurine in his pocket felt heavier. What? I can't do that. We got what we wanted from him, surely we could just dash, but then Izuku was shoved to the side. A pity. It seems we will have to use more stringent education with you, Izuku. I am disappointed. All for One said coldly, taking the air cannon quirk back, and slaying the hero with a single snap. Izuku thought he was going to be sick. Kurogiri, transport young Izuku and Ito the Nomu ward. All for One said in a bored tone. Of course, master, Kurogiri replied, his warp gate enveloping the two as Izuku spared the broken hero a final glance. Suddenly, they were in a concrete room, with weapons lining the wall and the faint smell of blood. This, my son, will be a lesson against hesitation. If you hesitate to kill this Nomu, you will be gravely injured. Kurogiri, bring in a level 1 Nomu. He commanded. Izuku backed up as a hulking behemoth walked out of the gate. With eyes that never blinked and an exposed brain, it roared and charged at Izuku, knocking him to the side. The creature's unnatural gurgling echoed in the chamber as Izuku crashed into the wall, and barely had time to duck out of the way as it charged him again. As Izuku tried to dodge, however, the Nomu grabbed Izuku by the arm, crushing it with ease. Izuku cried out in pain as the Nomu tossed him into the wall on the other side of the room. Get up, Izuku. You have the tools to kill it. Hesitation will be your doom. All for One said coldly, watching the fight. Izuku looked to his side, seeing a dagger to grab with his good arm. The Nomu charged again, but this time, Izuku teleported above the monster, driving the dagger into the exposed brain. The creature roared with pain and stumbled before collapsing. Pathetic. That creature should never have had the chance to injure you so. Dr. Garaki will patch you up, and you shall recover in your room. Sensei said with finality as the warp gate appeared once again, taking the two away from the cell. Garaki did just that, patching Izuku up while also extracting blood samples for his own research. These could be the key for the perfect vessel, Garaki muttered as he walked away. Soon enough, Midoriya was left to lie on his bed, his arm broken and his ribs wrapped to help them heal. Tears streamed down his face as he curled inward, clutching his All Might figurine until he fell asleep. Izuku stood in a void, unsure where he was. Ahead of him was a figure, one he recognized. It was the teleportation hero, Blindside. Izuku expected anger, vengeance, but instead, the image of the man simply looked sad. Blindside would walk over to Izuku, who couldn't find the words, but he could hear what the hero would say. "Don't let that BSTRD break you. With my death, it's only a matter of time before more heroes come. They can help you. Stay strong, kid," the vestige said, before Izuku woke up, the pain of his injuries ever present. This would not be the only time he had to face Sensei's punishment. More would come, be it villains who disappointed him, or heroes he captured. His first kill, however, was at the age of ages 12 to 14. At 12, Izuku stood in the basement's dim light, the clang of chains echoing in his ears. The captive before him a villain who'd, displeased, Sensei knelt, his eyes defiant despite his stolen quirk. The man's fire quirk burned in Izuku's chest, a searing heat laced with a fleeting echo of rage, like a scream trapped inside him. All for One's presence loomed, his voice cold and unyielding. "End him, Izu," All for One commanded, his hand heavy on Izuku's shoulder. "Prove your worth, or the Nomu ward awaits." Izuku's hands shook, the All Might figurine in his pocket a searing weight. Blindside's words, "Don't let him break you," clashed with the memory of the Nomu's crushing grip, the snap of his arm, and later so many other wounds. Tears stung his eyes as he raised his hand, the fire quirk flaring, a beam of red-hot energy from his hands. The villain's defiance faded to ash with a single choked gasp. Izuku collapsed to his knees, while rising, his vision swimming. He was a killer now. A villain just as Sensei wanted. "Finally, excellently done, my son. Soon you will be ready," Sensei said in an ever-so-cold tone. That night, he dreamed of Blindside and the villain, Flame Tongue, looking at him. "You had no choice. It's not your fault," Blindside said, the villain scoffing. "Can't believe I got killed by a DMN brat. But I don't blame you, that All for One is a piece of FNG work," Flame Tongue said, earning a glare from Blindside. The years dragged on, each punishment carving deeper scars. At 13, Izuku faced more cells, villains and heroes alike who would plead. Each one tearing a small piece of Izuku every time. Every slight defiance was met with scars left by the Nomu, or Garaki's experiments. The vestiges of those whose quirks he had taken lingered, urging him to hold on, to find a way out. He needed a way out. Even the vestiges of villains had to agree. Age 15. At 15, Izuku Shigaraki Midoriya was a shadow of the young boy who wanted to be a hero. Scars littered his skin, though most of them were covered with a shirt. His eyes, once a bright green with a light that shone brilliantly, were now dull, with only the faintest of sparks to them. His smile has not been seen in years, the weight of what he had been forced to do dragging it down. He could no longer remember the faces and names of the people All for One had him dispatch. He didn't want to. He entered the main chamber of the hideout to see Tamura, Kurogiri, and Sensei speaking. "Ah, good, you have arrived at a most opportune time, my son. Today marks a very special endeavor I wish the two of you to embark on," All for One said, looking between his two students. "Is it time for the raid on Yue-sensei?" Tamura asked, scratching his neck, right below the hands that covered his face. All for One nods. "Indeed. Tamura, I want you to take Izuku as your player too. Between your tenacity and Izuku's keen mind, All Might and his foolish students will fall." Izuku froze. All Might Yue? There was a chance there. A way in. A way out, maybe if he could figure out what he was really chasing. But before he could think too long, All for One's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Izuku, this is your chance to prove yourself ready once and for all. You have done well recently, so I expect great things from you. Do not disappoint me." Izuku bowed. "Why yes, Sensei," Izuku replied. It took some time for the preparations to be made, but soon Izuku would have his chance. "All Might, I'm coming, no matter what it costs." Izuku thought to himself, fumbling one last time with the chipped and faded All Might figurine that had been his lifeline for so many years. Chapter 3: Escape. It had been 11 years since Inko Midoriya's world was torn asunder. Her child gone, taken, and perhaps by now, dead. She never believed it, even after the funeral that was held. Getting the police to look for a missing child registered as quirkless, all because he was taken before he could be properly registered, was a Sisyphean task. Her friendship with Mitsuki was one of the only things keeping her going, and her home felt like a mausoleum. Izuku's room was neat, save for the fading All Might posters on his wall and his little shoes by the door. Still, Inko cleaned the room anyway. It helped a little. Perhaps later today she would make some katsudon, just like he always loved. Inko wiped away more tears as the television flickered to the news. We bring you this report live as we have just gotten word that UA has just been attacked. We will be giving more details as the story breaks. How horrible, those poor children, she thought as she sat to watch the news. Eventually, the situation would calm with the arrival of more pros, watching as the villains are escorted out. Suddenly, Inko gasps, her eyes welling with tears as uncertainty ties knots in her stomach. "Izuku?" she exclaimed, heart clenching with hope and dread. Before eventually getting a call to come down to the police station by Yua quickly, she donned her shoes and left, her mind whirling a mile a minute, not knowing that mere hours ago, her son was orchestrating a daring bid for freedom that would pale in comparison to the trials ahead. Some time earlier, Izuku woke to his alarm. It was time to prepare for the raid. There were so many vestiges now. Sensei had explained that he had dreams like those too. They would always scream at him, try to tear at him, only for him to force them back down. In contrast, all of the vestiges within Izuku's still unnamed Quirk seemed to be on his side, whispering encouragement or empathetically trying to soothe his guilt. Using Flametongue's quirk, a flash of fire engulfs his notebooks before quickly fizzling out, rendering his analysis worthless. Nobody will be in his room until it's too late, and he didn't want any more heroes to suffer because of his hobby. So many have been taken by his hand already. A part of him wondered if this attempt would even matter. He was a murderer after all. Chances are, he would be thrown into Tartarus with the rest of the villains. Yet, that had to be better than continuing like this. He dressed in combat gear, wearing a sturdy chest piece for some basic protection. He has more quirks now, but it was always good to be prepared. He had a knife, and hidden in his pocket, his All Might figurine that had gotten him through the years. He steps into the main chamber where Tamura, Kurogiri, and his father await. "Good, you're ready then, player 2? Tamura asked, his fingers scratching at his neck. Izuku responds with a nod. "Why, I've got our plan fully mapped out." Izuku begins describing the plan, and soon, chaos would unfold. Izuku made sure to specify that the students needed to be split up. These were UA students, so their teamwork needed to be hampered. According to Sensei, there was an inside contact who was able to give names and quirks, which Izuku incorporated. Internally, however, Izuku thought of making sure the student groups were big enough that the no-name thugs had little to no chance of overwhelming them. It also kept the army spread out enough that the pros should have an easier time. Neither Sensei nor Tamura would realize what was happening before it was too late, as nobody had any clear advantages, but no clear disadvantages either. Before they leave, as if on cue, All for One puts his hand on Izuku's shoulder, the grip a silent warning. "My son, today you strike at the heart of their so-called peace. All Might must fall not for sport, but for what he carries." His voice dripped with disdain. That power he clings to, it's a parasite feeding off the weak. Just like that trinket you hide in your pocket. Izuku's breath hitched, his fingers brushing the All Might figurine. "No matter. I've given you something sharper. A gift from my bloodline." He pressed harder, and a surge of power burned through Izuku's veins, something jagged, alive. "Spill his blood, Izuku. Bring me what's mine." The knot in Izuku's stomach tightened, and his scars began to itch from Sensei's words. The boy could only stammer. "Yes, Sensei. Now it is time, Izuku. Do not fail me, or it will be more than just your toy that shatters." Soon, a purple mist gate would open, and Izuku's chance of escape loomed tantalizingly close. It truly was utter chaos. What was supposed to be an educational trip turned into an all-out brawl between Class 1A and the various villains brought in by the strange purple smoke villain. Uraraka, Azui, and Mineta fought off villains on a boat, though it was being quickly surrounded by villains who were accustomed to water. The boat was beginning to sink. Quickly, Uraraka had the trio hold onto each other while she had them all float with her quirk, allowing Azui to direct them by having her tongue reach out and pull them quickly to safety. Eventually, they would be fully hidden from the villains, only to get a front-row seat to what was happening with their teacher. Thanks to the teamwork between Shoji and Sato, grabbing hold of the main body of the warp villain, Ida was able to outrun Kurogiri and escape. It would not be long before he would encounter All Might and bring more reinforcements as well. Aizawa was surrounded by villains on all sides, fighting them off left and right, his hair standing as his quirk nullified all others. None of them could touch the pro-hero, and Shigaraki was vastly entertained. Aizawa couldn't help but note the other figure next to Shigaraki, watching the fight with apprehension. You really are a cool hero, Eraserhead, though we all know you're more accustomed to stealth. You just had to jump in the middle of it all for those brats, didn't you? He taunted as Aizawa fought off villain after villain. Off to the side, a massive explosion rang out, thugs flying left and right unconscious from the explosion zone as Bakugo and Kirishima emerged. Keep him coming, we can take all you've got. Kirishima shouts, his quirk sharpening his features. Bakugo grinned, his hands sparking with the power of his quirk, before he turned and saw something that stopped him in his tracks. Deku! Bakugo's voice cracked, palms sparking wildly. How the hell are you with these freaks? He shouted, clenching his fists. There's no way a nerd like Deku would ever run with these morons, so what the hell? You know that guy, bro? The shout jolted Midoriya. He turned and stared. Kakin, he says weakly, his eyes betraying feelings of guilt and desperation. But then suddenly, an unnatural, guttural roar came out, as a Nomu launched itself toward Aizawa, pinning him face down into the ground, holding one of his arms in its large hand. How do you like that, Eraser? Say hello to the anti-symbol of peace. Tamura continued to jeer. What he didn't expect, however, was for his player 2 to suddenly vanish. Izuku's heart was pounding in his chest. The plan worked just as he wanted. There were enough kids in each group that these no-name villains would barely be a threat, not that Sensei or Tamura were really watching for that. Honestly, a part of him was rather proud that he could orchestrate things so well, and it looked like one of the faster kids escaped. He couldn't help but watch in awe at Eraserhead's movements. The way he used his quirk and wrapped enemies in his battle scarf was amazing. That amazement was cut short by Bakugo calling out, "How the hell are you with these freaks?" Which jolts his attention. He sees his childhood friend, now a hero in training. He always knew Kakin would make a great hero. Kakin was all he could muster before his thoughts were further interrupted by the guttural roar of a Nomu. He couldn't stop it from initially driving Aizawa to the ground, the roar causing his scars to throb at the memory, but seeing Aizawa there, limp and bleeding, his body began to move without him thinking about it. He couldn't hear whatever question Tamura was about to ask as he called on Blindside's teleportation, placing him right in front of the Nomu and delivering a slash with such ferocity that it was forced to back away and release the pro-hero from its grasp. Just before the knife landed, Izuku reached out, feeling the jumble of quirks that made up this being, and took two. Shock absorption and super regeneration, adding to a couple of other augmentation quirks that he had in his library by now. The Nomu roared in pain as it charged Izuku, only for him to move his hand forward, sending a large, burning bone spike through its shoulder by combining two of his quirks. What the hell do you think you're doing, player 2? Shigaraki screeched as Midoriya teleported Aizawa, bringing him beside the three nearby students. One of them seemed transfixed, staring with her brown eyes, while the purple-haired one was panicking. You're helping us? Why? The pink-cheeked girl asked, tilting her head. Aizawa looked up in a weak tone. You're just a kid. Trying to. One of your friends ran out earlier. Help should be here soon, he said as Shigaraki rushed forward. Fine. You want to play hero so bad, let's see you stop this. Shigaraki roared as he lunged toward Uraraka and Azui. Midoriya's body moved before his mind caught up, teleporting in front of them with blindside and slashing upward with his knife. The blade bit into Shigaraki's palm, and for a moment, the world held its breath. Blood sprayed, and something small flew out of Midoriya's coat pocket, clattering to the ground his all-might figurine. Tamura staggered back, cradling his hand, eyes wide with fury and confusion. "You little traitor, what the hell are you doing, player 2? You weren't supposed to go for them," Midoriya said breathlessly. "They're just kids." "And what are you, huh?" Tamura snapped, his voice rising into a near-hysterical pitch. "You think you're better than me now? You think you're a hero just because you copied their moves and gave yourself a sad little redemption arc? We were brothers in this game, Deku. You don't get to change the rules just because it hurts." Midoriya's jaw clenched, heart racing. "I didn't choose to play your game, Tamura. I was born into it." For just a second, something in Shigaraki's expression faltered. Not rage, not hate, something like betrayal. And then it was gone. The purple mist was rising again. Reinforcements were coming. And in the chaos, neither of them noticed the small, cracked plastic figure of All Might, now lying in the dirt between them. Watching. Silent. Forgotten. "Do not fail me, or it will be more than just your toy that shatters." Izuku shakes this thought away, despite his scars burning from the memory. Yet, he could feel the vestiges of the quirks he had taken spurring him onward. He could hear Kaken and the other UA students charging forward, fighting off the next wave of thugs. He was not a pawn, he was Izuku Midoriya. A brilliant flame roared to life within his left hand. "I'm not going to let you do this, Tamura," Izuku said, trying to drum up his confidence. The Nomu, now recovered from the sudden attack it received, roared with rage and charged once more, only for a flash of movement, followed by the sound of a heavy impact to ring out. The Nomu was crushed in a single punch by All Might, shattering the concrete below. "Everything will be okay now. Because I am here," he announced, his trademark smile replaced with a scowl towards Tamura. Izuku shook in place from the sheer magnitude of All Might's presence, his booming voice drowning out the memory of Sensei's orders. "No. You and that traitor ruined my Nomu. Kurogiri, take us and this traitor back to Sensei, he's gonna have some words for you, brother." Shigaraki spat. Izuku's heart raced and his breath hitched as he saw black mist beginning to envelop him. Fear gripped him tightly until tape wrapped around his torso. "I don't think so," Siro called out, pulling Midoriya away from the gate as the villains vanished. Izuku blinked his dull eyes at the hero student who had captured him. "That why?" he barely managed to rasp out. Siro offered his casual smile, recalling the fear he saw in the eyes of someone who looked close to his age. "I saw you save my friends and teacher. I don't know why or why you're here, but you did look like you needed help." Izuku breathed a sigh of relief, though now that he was no longer in Sensei's clutches, he truly had no idea where things were going to go from here. Uraraka approached him, holding a long, faded action figure. Seeing her, somehow, Izuku couldn't help but see an angel, delivering his most prized possession. "You dropped this. Thank you, by the way, for saving us," she said nervously as she helped him place the object back into his pocket. "Thank you. I really would have hated to lose that." Soon, the other pro-heroes would arrive, rounding up the villains, including Midoriya, who would be taken in for questioning. The road ahead was uncertain, but Izuku was glad to no longer be a pawn for his father, and for now, that was enough. Chapter 4, Questions. Fluorescent lights flickered above Izuku in a gray interrogation room. Still dressed in his now cracked and worn combat gear, the quirk-canceling HFFS chafe against his wrists. He blankly stares at the desk in front of him. Unknown to him, there is a conversation on the other side of the wall. Detective Tsukachi holds a file containing the information they had on Izuku Midoriya. It detailed his known family, last known quirk registry, and the age at which he disappeared and the circumstances. The kid was covered in scars and looked worse than many he had seen. Next to him was All Might, who regarded the child carefully, Nizu, who was currently steeping tea, and Aizawa, whose injuries were thankfully limited. Are we ready to begin the questioning? Tsukachi asked. The others nodded, though Nizu spoke up. Just by looking at the young man, it is clear that he has been through an ordeal. I shall prepare the tea. It would be best if we talk to him one at a time. It would not do for him to feel as though he is being ganged up on. The detective nodded and entered the interrogation room proper. The teenager before him looked up with dull green eyes with little to no spark. Izuku Midoriya. I am Detective Tsukachi. I have questions regarding the USJ incident and your role within it. I am legally obligated to record this meeting and inform you that my quirk works as a lie detector. Please answer my questions as truthfully as you can. Izuku nodded, glancing over to the faded figurine just out of his reach. First question. You were kidnapped at the age of 4. Can you tell us about who took you? Izuku nods. I wasn't kidnapped. My father came to school, told me that my mother had a terrible accident, and he was there to take care of me. The reading confused Tsukachi slightly, and he didn't like how hollow the kid's voice was. Our records show Hisashi Midoriya to be your father. Is he the one who took you? Izuku nodded. That was a name he used. But Dr. Garaki called him All for One. He made us call him Sensei. Midoriya replied, his voice raw and tired. Tsukachi made sure to write the name of the doctor down, the reveal of One for All shaking him to his core. Behind the wall, All Might and Nizu's eyes widened. Oh my, this is troubling, Nizu says as he pours a cup of tea. All Might's fist clenches. No? How could he still live? Prompting Aizawa to ask. Who is All for One? Elicited a sigh from All Might. An old foe of mine with the ability to steal quirks. He has been around for over a century. His evil grew to great heights many years ago through manipulation and quirk theft. It seems now he is making a comeback with this league. The hero answers, watching the questioning continue. Next question. The quirks you demonstrated coincide with the quirks of those that have gone missing over the recent years. Were these given to you by All for One? Tsukachi asks, causing the teenager to wince, his scars itching under his clothes, All for One's voice echoing their lack of worth. Yes and no. At first, he would give me quirks to analyze, to learn how they worked. I used to think it was just to learn about my power and others. But then, he remembered Flame Tongue. His screams burned Izuku's ears, ash choking his throat as the man incinerated, Sensei's praise, my son, feeling both validating and nauseating. He remembered countless others who fell either to him or his father. Things. He would have me take their quirks personally and then get rid of them. Every time I refused, Midoriya paused, his breath hitching as he rubbed at the scars on his arms. Tears began to blur his vision. I never wanted to be a villain. Izuku's voice cracked as he said this. Tsukachi's pen stilled, his eyes softening as Izuku's tears fell. The raw pain in the boy's voice, coupled with the unwavering truth of his words, hit hard. He leaned forward, voice gentle but probing. Midoriya, when did you realize you were being used? Izuku's fingers trembled, eyes locked on the figurine. I always loved heroes, he whispered, remembering a faraway room filled with All Might merch. Even before, I wanted to be a hero. Even when Sensei told me to kill people, I kept this. He nodded toward the faded figurine, voice shaking. I was maybe 10 when I saw All Might save a school on TV. Sensei laughed. Said something about borrowed power and how I was supposed to take it back. Something called One for All? I don't know much else beyond the name. Once more, the pen stopped as a chill made its way through the detective. All for One was out there, and still after All Might and his quirk. Behind the glass, Nizu pauses mid-sip of his tea, and All Might's gaze darkens, the weight of guilt sitting squarely on his shoulders. So I'm the only one in here that has no idea what this One for All is? Or All for One? Aizawa comments. Nizu turns to him to speak. It is a very closely guarded secret, but one that makes sense for young Midoriya to be aware of, living directly under All for One. I can bring you in on this later. It's my fault. All of it. If I had finished him off, All Might says, though his spiral is interrupted by Aizawa. That doesn't matter, All Might. That kid hasn't taken his eyes off that figurine of you since he was brought in. Think instead of what you can do for him now that he's out from under that BS duty. The symbol of peace nods as the questioning continues. So, how did you and your former associates infiltrate the USJ? What was your role in this? Tsukachi asks. According to Sensei, an inside person is giving him info. I don't know who or how, but I was the strategist. I came up with a plan to split the students and villains up. I knew the street thugs Tamura was using wouldn't be a match for UA students. Everything rang true, setting off alarm bells in the heads of all listening. After the attack, they wondered about an informant. Keeping note, Tsukachi kept going. You were behind the student placements? To save them? What brought you to defy all for one? Tears fell down Izuku's cheeks, the death cries of heroes and villains alike echoing in his ears, the roars of Nomu and the snapping of bone, all too familiar to him. Do not fail me, or it will be more than just your toy that shatters. Sensei's voice echoed, tightening the knot in his stomach. Yet he thought of that pink-cheeked girl who returned his figurine. Of what could have happened if he hadn't stepped in between the Nomu and Eraserhead, of that black-haired kid who yanked him away from Korajiri. Those students, Eraserhead, and All Might did nothing to deserve what Sensei and Tamura were doing. I wanted a way out, even if that meant you having to throw me into Tartarus itself, Izuku said with resolve. Tsukachi could have sworn he saw just the faintest spark of defiance in the teenager's eyes. Those observing outside of the room certainly did. I refuse to be like him. Tsukachi offered a kind smile. Quite frankly, Izuku Midoriya, you're nothing like him. Now, one last question. You mentioned taking quirks. Do you have the same one as your father's? Izuku shook his head. Not really? Kind of, I can pull quirks towards me or give them back. It's how I weakened the Nomo before All Might crushed it. Have you named it yet? Tsukachi asked, causing Izuku's brow to furrow. No, but if I had to name it, the teenager thought of the countless heroes and villains that lost their lives, and their quirks at his and his father's hands over the years. I think I'd like to call it Memorial. I want to do right by the people whose quirks and lives I've had to take. Tsukachi smiled with a nod, the others observing closely. I think that's a fine name for it. In the room behind me is All Might. He wanted to speak to you as well. Might seem overwhelming at first, but I can assure you that you are safe here, Izuku Midoriya. Would you like to see him? Izuku shook in his seat. There was a time when he would have jumped at the chance to speak to the number one hero. But now, he just silently stared at his figurine, still out of reach, as he muttered. You don't know that I deserve to. Another kind smile from the detective before picking up the files and leaving. Why don't we let him be the judge of that? With that, the two would switch places. All Might nearly filled the whole room. Not with his size alone, but the presence that came with him. He moves calmly, making no sudden movements to scare the child in front of him as he takes his seat. What you did took a lot of bravery, young man. Few could find an escape from All for One's controlling nature. He commented, Izuku shifting in his seat, unsure how to accept such praise. His hands, bound and unable to reach his figurine, grasped the table edges. All Might continues, his smile ever present. You managed to keep that figurine of yours safe all this time? Izuku nods. It's all I had of home, of you. It helped me remember what I wanted to be. A small act of rebellion. All Might nods. It's not too late for you, you know. What you did back there proves it. Even All for One's darkness couldn't overshadow your heroic spirit. The tears continued, the cuffs rubbing against scars that itched with each memory. I don't know if I can be that person anymore. All Might moved, gently, to push the figurine back within Izuku's reach. You still are, young Midoriya, despite everything. That much is clear to everyone in that room. All Might stood. I'm going to head back to the other room. I need to go soon, but young man? You can be a hero, even if you can't quite believe that right now. Izuku clutched the figurine like it was the only thing keeping him afloat. All Might exited, entering the observation room with a sigh. Is his mother here yet? He asks, eliciting a nod from Nizu. I believe so. Detective Tsukachi should be speaking to her now. I will bring our options up to both Midoriyas once they have had a proper chance to reunite. Inko drove to the station, doing her best to keep tears out of her eyes as she drove. When she arrived, Detective Tsukachi was already there, ready to greet her. Mrs. Midoriya, good evening. Inko would stammer out. Gee, good evening, Detective. Is this about my son? Have you found anything? Tsukachi nods, gesturing to a nearby set of chairs for the two to sit as they talk. Inko followed, her eyes not leaving the man as he spoke. This new evidence has come to light, and there is no easy way to say this. Tsukachi begins informing Inko on the fate of her son. Inko shook in her seat, tears falling down her cheeks in a torrent. My baby, what did they do to my baby? She cried, looking at the detective through her tears. Please tell me you have him in there. The detective nodded in response. He is just, brace yourself, Mrs. Midoriya. He's not going to look the way you remember. I'm going to get him ready to see you, Tsukachi said somberly as he entered the room, removing the cuffs from Izuku. Izuku, your father lied to you. Your mother was never killed. Izuku blinked. What? The detective offered a smile. Your mother is alive and she is here. Izuku looked down at his scarred hands, his cracked protection gear. He wasn't sure about her, seeing how different from that naive, joyful 4-year-old he is. I'm going to open this door now and give you two some space, all right? Tsukachi asked, and got a nod in response. When Inko walked into the room, it was like looking at a ghost. Gone was the spark in his eyes and his beautiful smile. Scarred hands held a faded All Might figurine. Tears formed anew as those eyes, now a dull green and burdened by guilt, looked to her. He croaked, tears of his own forming. Inko surged forward, wrapping her baby in a hug, causing Izuku to flinch initially, remembering his father's tight grasp, but he returned it. He clutched onto her tightly, both of them shaking with sobs. I'm sorry, seemed to be all Izuku could choke out between sobs as Inko cradled the back of his head with her hand. It took some time for the pair to calm down enough for an actual conversation to take place. As they separated, Izuku sniffed. He told me you were dead. The things he had me do don't matter. Izuku, it doesn't matter what that monster has done. You are my baby, and nothing is going to change that, sweetie. I've never stopped loving you, and I'm not going to stop now. Inko pulled him into another hug. Oh, how Izuku wished he could believe that. Soon, Nizu would exit the room with Aizawa, both of whom would regard the two silently. Nizu would gently approach, carrying on a plate 3 cups of tea. Pardon my intrusion, but I've always found that a nice cup of tea works wonders when I'm feeling down. The pair accepted the tea. Thank you, Izuku said quietly, not daring to look up at Eraserhead. I'm glad you're not hurt too badly, Eraserhead, sir. Aizawa turned to look at the boy. It would have been a lot worse if not for you. It would have been a lot worse for my students too. So if anything, I should be thanking you. Speaking of, I need to go check on them. Aizawa looks at Inko. Also, what Principal Nizu is about to say might sound like a lot, but I would take the time to consider his offer. With that, Aizawa was off to see to his class. Inko blinked at the principal. Offer? She asks, drying her eyes. Yes. Young Midoriya has shown immense bravery under absolutely dire circumstances. More than that, though, I'm sure both he and I know that all for one, the man who claimed to be Hisashi Midoriya, will not simply let the escape go unanswered. It is with this knowledge that the first offer I would like to make is to move you both to an apartment on UA grounds. This would all but guarantee both his and your safety within the city. Izuku stares blankly. He's not going to stop. He'll come after you again, Nizu nods. Indeed, which is why training our heroes and ensuring their safety is as important as ever. He said with a pause, taking a sip of his tea before continuing. Which brings me to my second offer. Right now, Mr. Aizawa is going to his class to see if they will accept young Midoriya into their ranks. I imagine many of them are grateful for your assistance. Izuku looked down at his shoes, not knowing how to take the compliment. What if they hate me? For being there? Then we shall find a different avenue for your education, though I wouldn't fret. I don't see Class 1A hesitating to reach out a hand to save someone. Nizu says confidently as his phone dings. Ah, it seems we have our answer. Before leaving, Nezu looks at Izuku. Much like yourself, I have known cruelty at the hands of others. The first steps are always the hardest, but you will not be alone in them. Izuku looked at the principal, eyes still blank and unsure, but he wanted to try. I'll do it. If I really can be a hero still, he looks at his scarred hands, thinking about how much blood has been on them, and clenches them, the faintest spark of his heroic spirit glimmering. Then I'll try. F for them. Nizu smiles. And for yourself too, Izuku Midoriya. It had been nearly unanimous. Aside from Bakugo, who was wary, all of 1A was willing to accept Izuku into the fold. Unfortunately, Mineta had made several bad choices during and after USJ and was promptly expelled, leaving room for him. It took some time to move into the new apartment, but it was done, and soon his first day of hero training would begin. Izuku sat in his new room, with only a singular, faded All Might poster on his wall, and his figurine in a place of honor, on a shelf overlooking the space. Chapter 5. Healing. After getting settled in his new room, Izuku promptly fell asleep, the emotional exhaustion of the day catching up with him. He dreamed of a blank expanse of thick fog. He could hear his father's voice, echoing sourcelessly. You should not have fled. You do not need these fools. He heard the voice say. Shortly after, there were eyes looking at him through the haze. These eyes didn't feel cruel or even angry, it was as if they were watching. Izuku could almost swear there was an eagerness to them. Before he could investigate further, he awoke to the sound of his All Might alarm. The morning is here. The morning is here, it shouted until Izuku turned it off. He awoke to the fresh smell of breakfast wafting into his room, starting his day in a way he never thought he would again. Eventually, he would be ready to head off and find his way in front of Class 1A's room, with Aizawa standing in front of it. They know that you were an unwilling participant in the USJ incident, and that you helped turn the tide in our favor so you could escape. They understand you've been through traumatic events, including coercion. I didn't go into specifics, that's your story to tell when you're ready. Izuku nods, the knot in his stomach tightening. Are you ready? Aizawa asks tiredly. Why yeah, I'll just introduce myself. Aizawa nods, and Izuku opens the door. As he entered, he felt all eyes on him, though he couldn't help but notice Uraraka's soft smile, or Bakugo's glare that seemed to be dissecting him on the spot. Izuku gave a bow, deeper and more precise than would be normal for a student. It was practiced and precise. Rising from it, he would stutter out, I am Izuku Midoriya. I am grateful for the chance you've given me. It's more than I ever expected when I planned my escape. Thank you. As he stood back up, Ida stood from his seat, addressing Midoriya directly, half chopping the air as he spoke. While it is true you once stood among those who attacked our class, your actions during the assault and your clear reluctance have shown us otherwise. Though I cannot speak for everyone, most of us are glad to welcome you. You've already demonstrated the instincts of a true hero. Let us help you nurture them. Ida sits down after this, and Izuku is directed to his seat. First came the common core classes, which, oddly enough, weren't too hard for Izuku to get a grasp of. Turns out One for All had a knack for education. There were still several areas Midoriya struggled in, but Yaoyorozu and Ida had already offered to help him catch up on those areas during study hall and over the weekend. Then it was time for lunch. As Midoriya got his food, he sheepishly meandered around the loud environment, unsure of where to go until he spotted Uraraka waving at him. Hey Midoriya, over here, saved a seat for ya. She calls, gesturing to a seat by her and Ida. Izuku makes his way over, setting his food down carefully. Hi. He greets, not quite sure what to say as he sits, Ida turning to greet him as well. Good afternoon, Midoriya. As he sits, a brown-haired boy, already munching on some takoyaki. He looks over to Izuku and smiles. Welcome to the jungle, don't worry, we've got your back. He says as he puts a sticker on Izuku's drink. A small neon bunny with a chainsaw. Thanks. Izuku said uncertainly, looking over to Ida and Uraraka for a hint as to how to interact. Uraraka laughs while Ida rolls his eyes, saying in response, "See you at Hero Ethics, Itazura." Ida says, the boy disappearing into the crowd. He turns back to Izuku. That was Kenzen Itazura. His ways are strange, but he has got a heroic heart. And the best memes, Uraraka adds, still chuckling. Midoriya blinks. Huh. Is all he can manage to get out as he pushes at his food. Ida speaks up. I wanted to give you my thanks, Midoriya. It must have taken great courage to turn on those who called you their ally. I must admit I am curious as to what caused your change of heart, if you do not mind me asking. Izuku looks down at his food, curling in on himself a little bit as he absently rubs at one of the scars on his arm. Something about how nice everyone was being was starting to make his chest hurt. I never wanted to be a villain, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. But every time I thought of running, I could hear his voice telling me I owed him. I could feel him holding me back. Absent of thought, Midoriya rubbed his shoulder, the one that his father would hold in a much too tight grip. His hand hovered just over the bone-deep bruise it left behind. It took me too long to realize that it wasn't love, it was control. It's not something I ever want to go back to. Ida and Uraraka glance at each other for a moment, a silent agreement among friends, before Uraraka replies. Then you won't. She said confidently, we're here now and we can help. Midoriya stared at her, and she felt something twist in her chest. His eyes, so dull, so tired, looked older than they should. Ida's voice pulled her back to the conversation. Exactly, we can all help you find your way going forward. Ida announces, his arm gesticulating as he speaks. As they talked and ate, Izuku felt the knot in his stomach that had been there since the start of the day loosen ever so slightly. As lunch ended, the trio made their way to their next class, Hero Ethics. Midoriya took his seat, Bakugo's eyes on him, though he said nothing. The other students filter in, greeting Midoriya kindly as they took their seats. Not long after, All Might bursts in, dressed in full costume, wearing his signature smile. I am here. With a lesson on heroics, he announces, Midoriya wincing slightly at the boom. All Might coughs into his hand and continues. Today, we will be asking ourselves one very important question. You see, being a hero is more than flashy battles and fame. I want you all to think about why you want to be a hero. What drives you? Why did you choose this path, and how does it affect your decisions? The students, usually full of energy, were unusually quiet, pens poised above notebooks as they considered his question. All Might looks over to Itazura, who is leaning back with a lazy grin on his face and his hand in the air. Yes, young Itazura? Well, for me, it's about fighting for people who don't have the power to fight for themselves. It's about using what I've got to make the world better than it is right now, he says, earning a nod from All Might. True enough. A level stance to have now, young Uraraka? He asks, looking over to her as she raises her hand tentatively. Well, originally I wanted to be a hero so I could earn enough to support my family. They gave so much to get me here and I just wanted to pay that back, you know? But then USJ happened, and I remembered something. When I was little, whenever the heroes showed up, people smiled. Even if they were scared or hurt. It was like, hope came with them. She glances over to Midoriya as she says, I want to help those who need it to smile again, before looking back down at her paper. Now that is inspiring. All Might comments, looking over to Izuku. And you, young Midoriya? He asks, more gently than previously. Izuku felt eyes on him from all angles, the weight of his figurine anchoring him to his seat. It had been a long time since he dared to dream about being a hero. Did he even remember why he wanted it? Midoriya's fingers curled tightly around his pen. He could feel it, a strange silence. Not the kind that filled a quiet room, but the kind that pressed down like a weight. That kind of silence always came before he broke. He looked down at the figurine clipped to his belt. The faded, tiny, smiling All Might, scratched from use, still holding that same ridiculous grin after everything. How long had it been since he looked at that smile and believed in it? His throat tightened. The classroom faded to a dull hum. He faltered. The pause. That I used to think it was because I admired heroes. All Might especially. His voice was quiet but steady. I thought, if I just tried hard enough, I could be someone like that. Someone strong, someone people could count on. He exhaled slowly, the words pulling out like stitches unraveling. But I think the real reason I wanted to be a hero was because I wanted to protect people. People who were scared. People who couldn't fight back. I wanted to be the kind of person who made sure they didn't have to be afraid anymore. He stopped for a second, then added, voice almost too soft to hear. Even if I was scared myself. There was no applause. No shouts of encouragement. Just silence. Respectful. Ida gave a small head bow in respect, while Uraraka gripped her pen a little tighter. Itazura, leaning back in his seat still, gave Midoriya a thumbs up from under the table, and to the side, he thought he saw a look of recognition from Todoroki. Other students held similar small, quiet reactions. All Might's expressions softened into something far smaller than a smile, but just as genuine. A noble answer, young Midoriya. Thank you for sharing that. Midoriya gave a small nod, barely perceptible, before returning his attention to the page in front of him. He didn't know what to write. But maybe, for the first time in a long while, he was starting to remember how to try. It took some time to find the words, but eventually that class, too, would end. The next would be sparring matches, overseen by Mr. Aizawa. Izuku didn't know how to proceed. He saw Itazura, his arms shifting grotesquely as muscle and bone moved to form a gauntlet fist and a whip-like tendril stand opposite Kirishima, whose skin hardened to rock before the two went at each other in a practiced dance of strikes and blocks, the sounds echoing off the walls. He saw Uraraka floating several objects, holding concentration as sweat gathered on her brow, and trying not to lose her lunch. He watched as everyone moved as though they belonged, all of the students splitting up into pairs, like a ghost looking toward a scene he felt separate from. His father's voice echoed again. See how they hold back, Izuku? They waste time with petty tricks instead of finishing the job. Midoriya shook his head as Aizawa walked up to him, announcing tiredly, Midoriya, you're with Ojiro to get some hand-to-hand training. You might know how to strike a lethal blow, but restraint takes practice. Izuku nods. Why, sir? He clams up, the title of sensei only bringing an echo of him. Aizawa notices this, though he chooses to say nothing for now. Instead, he goes to the rafters watching the training from above. Ojiro stands across from him, with an easy smile, bouncing on the ball of his feet. When you're ready, let's see if we can start with your stance. He offers. Midoriya nods, taking his stance. He was never truly taught hand-to-hand combat training before, just simply thrown into live rounds of combat. The sounds of Nomu roars echoed in his mind slightly as he chose a stance, fists raised. Ojiro observes this and asks, would it be okay if I helped you adjust a little bit? Midoriya nods. Ojiro stepped in slowly, gauging Midoriya's reaction with care. His touch was gentle, steady hands guiding Izuku's elbows and ankles into better alignment. Not forceful. Not aggressive. Not a Nomu manhandling him into place, just grounding. He expected the lesson to be painful. But he started to wonder if it was ever supposed to be. Your stance is important, Ojiro said. Without a solid one, you're easy to knock off balance, then it's all downhill. After that comes breathing. Try to match mine. Izuku did as he was told. A slow inhale. A careful exhale. How long had it been since he learned something without fear? There you go. Keep that going. In a fight, adrenaline can mess with your rhythm, make you sloppy or panicked. Breath control helps keep your head clear. Izuku nodded, though his fingers twitched slightly, remembering too many moments of chaos. Of panic that couldn't be shown. Of violence demanded without hesitation. Ojiro stepped back into his stance with a relaxed grin. Now, let's see a couple of punches. Izuku paused just a beat, then stepped forward and threw one. It wasn't clean. The angle was off. His knuckles didn't align right. But it wasn't lethal. That was the point, right? Another punch, and then his father's voice. A strike that does not progress the fight to victory is a wasted effort. Kill them. His fist was flying toward Ojiro's throat before he could stop it, but Ojiro caught the blow. The soft, steady smile never left his face. Sorry. Izuku winced, shoulders tightening like he expected pain to follow. Punishment. Something. Instead, Ojiro gently released his fist and said, "It's all right, Midoriya. It'll take more than that to trip me up. Don't forget to breathe." His tone didn't change. No scolding. No fear. "I don't know where you just went, but you're not there anymore." Izuku obeyed, breathed deep, trying to remember the present. This room. This partner. This safety. His next punch came smoother. Not perfect, but better. Ojiro caught it again, this time on his forearm, nodding. "Good. Let's keep working on that. You've got instinct, you just need to reshape it." Izuku didn't answer with words. He just reset his feet, kept breathing, and threw another punch. A little cleaner. A little steadier. And for the first time in what felt like forever, he didn't feel like a weapon. He felt like a student. Aizawa watched from above as Ojiro guided Midoriya through the starting gate. There was a small feeling of pride, seeing his student reach out in his own quiet way. He let their spar continue for a while, as Midoriya got into the rhythm of his fighting style. Eventually, he would call out, "All right, time to switch things up. Deserves a spar. With Ojiro, no quirks. Kirishima, over here." Ojiro gave a bow and smiled at Midoriya. "You did fantastically on day one. You're going to do great here, Midoriya. Keep it up." Izuku felt the slightest twitch in his cheek before offering a bow of his own. "Thanks. That was pretty fun." Kirishima walked over, high-fiving Ojiro as they passed. It didn't take long for him and Itazura to get into their own rhythm, more fast-paced and intense. "Midoriya, I want you to now practice using your quirks. We'll need to help you recontextualize their use so you can pull back when you need to. Kirishima, I want you to use yours to handle what he throws at you, and try to help him keep focus on the ones he activates. Don't forget the breathing, Midoriya." Aizawa calls from the rafters, watching his students carefully. Midoriya nodded, swallowing hard. This would be different. This wasn't a lesson in restraint, it was a lesson in control. He closed his eyes for just a second. Then out. Control his breathing, control his quirks. If he doesn't let himself panic, he won't hurt anyone, right? He opens them, his gaze finally steady. "All right, I'm ready when you are," he says to Kirishima, who responds with a wide grin. "All right, let's do this. Hit me with your best shot, Midoriya." And so Izuku does, his analytical gaze noting the locations of Kirishima's exposed carotid, or the fact that with his speed, the heart would be exceedingly vulnerable. On instinct, he moved a bone spike outward, straight for the student's heart. Midoriya only had just enough time to pull back the speed so that the student could block it. Kirishima moved his arms in practiced swiftness and blocked the piercing attack, though it did push him back a little. Izuku's blood ran cold. "Why do you hesitate?" "Kill them. I'm sore." "Whoa ho ho." Kirishima laughed, shaking out his arms. "Not bad. You've got some serious power behind that, huh?" Midoriya blinked. No yelling. No fear. Just Kirishima grinning like he'd just scored a goal, not barely avoided being impaled. "Though, hey, for the next one? Let's aim for not a kill shot, yeah?" Kirishima said, clapping his fists together. Shoulders, legs non-vitals. "Remember, you're trying to capture the bad guy, not skewer him like a meat kebab." Izuku flushed with embarrassment, but he nodded. The instruction wasn't cruel. It was kind. Playful even. He looked down at his trembling hand, and then back up at Kirishima's easy smile. He felt his shoulders relax even though he never realized that he had stiffened up in anticipation of being berated. "All right. Capture, not kill." Izuku repeats. The words felt foreign to him. Hesitation meant weakness, weakness meant pain. He flexed his fingers again, feeling the bone shift beneath the skin. Maybe he could try that again. Aizawa's eyes tracked the bone spear the moment it left Midoriya's arm too fast, too precise, and aimed squarely for the kill. He was ready to stop it, but Kirishima blocked it just in time, his laugh easing the tension in the room. Aizawa's gaze didn't waver, however. His phone buzzed. A private message from Itazura. Kenzen Itazura. Hey, didn't want to stir anything up mid-class, but Midoriya has to learn how not to be lethal? What on earth happened to that guy? Aizawa read the message, his expression unreadable as always. But he didn't ignore it. He typed back quickly, eyes flicking between Midoriya and the other students sparring. Aizawa. Long story. Not one for me to tell. But yes, he's starting from a place no one should have been. Keep looking out for him. Quietly. Another pause. Then another buzz. Kenzen. Always do. Aizawa slid the phone back into his coat and resumed his silent watch from above. He didn't need to say it, but it lingered anyway. Midoriya was lucky to be in Class 1A. Meanwhile, Midoriya nods and reforms his stance, retracting the bone spike, flinching lightly at the sound. He refocused shoulders. Not the heart. Legs. Not the throat. And out. He surged forward again, sending a smaller spike toward Kirishima's shoulder. This time, the trajectory was off, more shallow, deliberate. Kirishima blocked it with a forearm, grinning through the impact. There we go, he cheered, feet skidding slightly. That's more like it. Midoriya moved again, this time trying for a sweeping arc of bone across the air. Kirishima ducked it, then sidestepped a second blast that came bursting from Izuku's palm. Sweat was beginning to form along Midoriya's brow, his teeth gritted not from exertion, but focus. He didn't want to miss, he didn't want to hit. Kirishima stepped in close, tapping Izuku's guard with a knuckle. You're hesitating, he said, not unkindly. I have to, Midoriya replied, voice strained. I don't know how to stop once it starts. Kirishima nodded, backing up again and resetting his stance. Then let's learn. You've got this. Midoriya nods, lifting his left arm. He could feel the heat spread from his chest up his arm, flame tongue. And yet, his mouth was dry. He pointed it forward by instinct, toward Kirishima's midsection. And then he saw it. Not the sparring room. Not Kirishima's eager, unflinching face. He was back at the cell, his father's hand clutching his shoulder, the villain in front of him, whose face he could no longer recall. The smoke. The scream. The man whose face he barely remembered, only that it melted into a scream and then charred silence. Flames crawling up his ribs. Bones cracked black. Fingers twitching even after his father's praise. Finally, efficiency at last. The fire in Midoriya's hand shuddered, then fizzled out with a strangled pop. Kirishima stepped forward quickly, alarmed now. Midoriya? Izuku dropped to one knee. He wasn't injured, not physically. Just winded. Like the memory had struck him in the ribs harder than any punch ever could. He tried to SCK in air, tried to remember the pattern, but just couldn't over the sheer weight of what almost happened. And still you flinch? How disappointing. I can't. And not again, he blinks, and Kirishima's concerned face sits in front of him, the student kneeling, trying to meet Midoriya's trembling gaze. I almost, Midoriya sputters out before Kirishima tries to calm him down. Hey, it's all right, man, you were able to stop it. Nobody's hurt. I almost didn't. Up above, Aizawa's eyes narrowed, but he didn't move, not yet. He was watching. Not just Midoriya, but the class around him. The way they shifted closer. The way no one laughed. The way the silence stretched but didn't. Kirishima held out a hand, not demanding, just offering. You've been through some shit. But you're here now. With us. That means you get to relearn all this. At your own pace. Midoriya stared at the hand for a second longer. Then slowly he took it. Kirishima lifted Midoriya, brushing off ash as Izuku's mouth formed a thin line, and his eyes had a faraway look. There was no forced laughter, only the quiet hum of the lights as Uraraka and Ida looked towards their new friend. I wish there was something more immediate we could do for him, you know? She asked quietly to Ida, who bowed his head. Healing takes time, and we don't know the extent that Midoriya's been hurt. But today has been a start, and we shall have many more to help him in that effort. Meanwhile, Itazura stood to the side, working with something on his phone, before pocketing it and returning to spar with Ojiro. One by one, the others did the same as Midoriya allowed himself to sit down. He heard footsteps beside him and expected Aizawa, only to see Koda with an ice-cold water bottle in hand, which he offered to Izuku. Initially, he had expected the kindness to have something behind it. A strike, beratement, something, and yet all that he was met with was a kind smile and a soft bunny nuzzling his leg. Thanks, Midoriya says softly as he accepts the water bottle and drinks. The cold was helping to keep him present. Koda smiles and sits, not too close as to bother, but close enough to be present. After some time, sparring ends, Ida and Uraraka wait outside the door to walk with Izuku to a large room with beanbag chairs, desks, books, and students from all around working on various projects or homework. Class 1 has their own little section where Kaminari seems to be short-circuiting as he stares at the math problem before him, Bakugo trying to help with an annoyed expression. Bakugo catches Midoriya's eye for a second, frowns, and goes back to helping Kaminari. Izuku didn't mind. He didn't know what to say either. At her own table, Yaoyorozu waved the trio over. Izuku took his seat, opting to sit beside Uraraka and in front of Ida, greeting Yaoyorozu. Hi. He greets awkwardly, scratching at a scar on the back of his neck, trying to ease his nerves. Yaoyorozu smiles kindly. Good afternoon, Midoriya. Aizawa-sensei wanted Ida and I to help you catch up on a couple of subjects. Luckily, it is not too late in the year, so if we are diligent, we should have you on track with everyone else in no time. Izuku bows his head, again deeper than most. That sounds great, thank you very much, he says as Ida starts breaking out books. Uraraka, for her part, simply does her homework, pitching into conversation here and there as the four of them work. After a bit, Izuku thinks over the question in his head a few times. Not too nosy, not too blunt. Hey, where's Itazura? I don't think I saw him come into the study hall yet. Yaoyorozu and Ida exchange a look and nod, Ida speaking first. Itazura sometimes uses study halls to have sessions with Hounddog, our resident Quirk counselor and therapist. Yaoyorozu continues where Ida leaves off. We are not fully sure what those visits entail, but they seem to help keep him grounded. If you ever feel like talking about what happened, we can help you set up an appointment or lend an ear ourselves. I thought he was the head of student DSPN? Izuku asked. Originally, that was the case. However, Itazura has quite the streak for activism. Within the first couple of weeks, he pulled every medical journal and case study he could find, including himself, and convinced Principal Nizu to expand Hounddog's role. And as if on cue, there is a chuckle. You guys talking about me again? Itazura strolled up, grinning mid-bite of an energy bar, mischief in his eyes but warmth in his tone. He glanced toward Izuku as he dropped into an open seat. They're right, you know. You're one of us now. Itazura gestures with his energy bar vaguely to the room. And hey, we're all hormonal superpowered teenagers, obviously we needed that change to happen. Izuku blinked at him, startled but grateful. Before he could think of a reply, Itazura was already pulling out his phone. Speaking of which one of you nerds forgot to add Midoriya to the Class 1A group chat? He said, dramatically scandalized. Yaoyorozu raised a polite hand. I believe it was Aoyama's turn to update the roster. Of course it was, Itazura muttered, thumbs already flying across his screen. Bet he got distracted adding sparkles to the group icon again. A moment later, Izuku's phone buzzed. He looked down to see the notification. You've been added to 1A Mayhem and Homework. Izuku blinks. Oh, thanks. Looking over to Uraraka, who continues to offer a smile. We mostly use it for homework reminders, tutoring scheduling, and memes, lots of them. Mostly from Itazura and Kaminari. I think even Aizawa-sensei dropped one, and then vanished. Itazura chuckled and added. We also bully Bakugo into being halfway decent. That is untrue, we do not bully. That would be wildly inappropriate behavior. Ida chided, getting another chuckle from both Itazura and Uraraka. Midoriya could have sworn he saw Ida pull a slight grin as they reacted. Okay, we gently correct him with memes. Lots of them. Izuku stared at the chat name a second longer, heart unexpectedly tight. It was just a notification. Just a name in his phone. but it felt like something heavy and invisible had shifted. "Thanks," he said softly, the word almost drowned out by the rustle of pages in Ida's ongoing textbook lecture. But Idazura caught it and gave him a quick, understanding wink. Eventually, school would end, and Izuku would go home. His mother asked about his day, asking if he got enough to eat, and he wondered if this is what normal felt like. Going into his room and getting his homework set up, Izuku checks his phone. Group chat, 1A Mayhem and homework. Green circle Midoriya Izuku has been added to the chat. Kenzen Bone Syringe. Guess who's here, nerds? Mina Sparkling Heart Sparkles. OMG Midoriya he woman dancing woman dancing woman dancing. WL Kamido the Chaos. See you frog face. Hi Midoriya-chan. Glad you're here. Ribbit. Your headphone. Someone warn him about the sticker spam before it's too late. I am a glowing star. Sparkles, welcome to the starriest chat in UA. Sparkles. May your emojis shine as bright as your destiny shooting star. Zero Spiderweb. Don't open the media folder. Just don't. Denki high voltage smiling face with sunglasses. We're kidding, it's fine. Mostly. JK, it's a hellscape of memes and Bakugo reactions. Kirishima collision brick. Yo Midoriya bro. Pumped to have you in here. Flexed biceps flexed biceps. This group gets wild during training weeks, so hang tight face with tears of joy fire. Tokoemi New Moon Eagle. Darkness welcomes you. But also, we meet for Smash Brothers tournaments every Friday. Do not be late. Yayarosa Books. Please remember, everyone, this chat is also meant for academic collaboration. Midoriya, don't hesitate to ask for help with any assignments. Uraraka Shooting Star smiling face with smiling eyes. Don't worry, Midoriya, I'll help you navigate everything. Also, we'll teach you how to use the custom emoji. You're gonna need them. Kenzen Bone Syringe. Custom emoji tutorial later. First, I demand a selfie from the new guy, or we riot. Midoriya Green Circle. I don't really take selfies, but okay, hold on. A minute passes. Camera with flash image attached. A slightly blurry photo of Midoriya holding a pencil awkwardly in front of his face, looking like he's not quite sure if he's allowed to smile or not. Mina Sparkling Heart Sparkles. OMG, he's adorable. Your headphone. Bro looks like a haunted honor student. Tenten. Uraraka Shooting Star smiling face with smiling eyes. Loudly crying face, he's trying his best, leave him alone. Bakugo Collision Fire finally joins. TF is this? Why are there 93 messages? Who added the green dork? Kenzen Bone Syringe. That's our green dork now. Green heart. Deal with it. Midoriya Green Circle. Sorry if this is a dumb question. But what's Smash Brothers? Several people begin typing. Begin typing again. Denki high voltage smiling face with sunglasses. Mina Sparkling Heart Sparkles. I am currently sitting on the floor of my room, staring at the ceiling, questioning life. Who hurt you? I just want to have a talk with them. Zero Spiderweb. What's Smash Brothers? I felt that in my soul. Like a physical blow. Ida, call recovery girl, I'm not okay. Your headphone. I'm going feral. How did he survive this long? Tokoemi New Moon Eagle. A tragedy deeper than shadow. We will correct this. Yayarosa Books. While I also do not know the mechanics of the game, I at least know it exists, Midoriya. This is quite alarming. Kirishima Collision Brick. Don't worry dude, we got you. This is a manly emergency. Uraraka Shooting Star smiling face with smiling eyes. Midoriya, you poor sweet summer child. Stay where you are. Kenzen Bone Syringe. Stop sign stop the chat. Raid mission status, active. Target, Midoriya's apartment. Objective, educate and smash. Red Square Bakugo has left the chat. Red Square Bakugo has rejoined the chat. Bakugo Collision Fire. If y'all are dragging him to play games, I'm picking the map. I'm not letting Deku's first time be on FD like some chump. We're going to Battlefield or nothing. Izuku blinked at his phone, unsure of what had just happened, but he got up and walked over to his mother. You, Mom? Inko turns, a soft smile on her face. Yes, sweetie? Is something wrong? I got added to a group chat, and they asked me something about Smash Brothers. They seemed shocked that I didn't know what that was. So now we may be having company, a lot of company. Inko covers her mouth with her hand, a happy expression on her face as her eyes water. You made friends already? Oh my gosh, Izuku, that's great. I'll get snacks ready and set the living room up, she says tearfully as she goes to hug her son. He flinches in her grasp, and she tries to pretend that it didn't just break a small part of her. She lets go, smiling, though clearly holding back tears. It's good that they want to include you, sweetie. Why don't you go finish up your homework while you wait? I'll set everything up. Izuku nods as Mama Midoriya gets to work. Eventually, there is a gentle knock at the door. Then another. Kirishima, from outside. Wait. Be cool, don't scare his mom. Itazura. Too late. I already brought the Joy-Con nunchucks like a lunatic. Mina. Stand in friend formation. This is a rescue mission and a friendship debut. Inko answers the door, not expecting to see most of an entire classroom of children outside. Itazura stands at attention, hand over his heart. Ida stands to the side in a three-point bow. Mrs. Midoriya. We're here for your son, causing her to laugh. Oh, you must be the friends Izuku made. He told me you all would be coming, though I didn't know there would be so many of you. Please come in. Thank you for allowing us to visit Ms. Midoriya. Ida says as Shiro, Kaminari, Bakugo, Kirishima, Yaoyorozu, Tokoyami, Itazura, and Uraraka file in. Izuku stands still as a statue, unsure of what to do or say. This gathering was completely alien to him. Hey, Auntie, it's been a bit. Bakugo says to Inko, a look in his eyes that says more to her than what the others seem to catch. Inko maintains the soft smile, hugging him. He pretends that the tears on his shoulder don't bother him. She pretends to not notice a couple tears on hers. Kirishima whistles as he looks around. Man, this place is cozy. Very clean, Yaoyorozu notes, impressed. Too clean, Itazura says dramatically, tossing Izuku a pillow. His hands gripped it tightly, expecting something else, but it was just a gentle tease. We gotta mess this place up with friendship and video game shenanigans, eliciting a chuckle from Inko. Snacks are on the table, drinks are in the fridge. Let me know if any of you need anything, and thank you, she says while the others are focused on Midoriya. She targets the thanks to Yaoyorozu and Ida, the more subdued members of this friend group. They both bow their heads and smile reassuringly. Izuku barely catches the pillow Itazura threw, startled. Oh, I've never played before. You're doomed, Kaminari grins. You'll do fine, Uraraka reassures, plopping down next to him on the floor. They get him set up. Someone hands him the controller. Someone else gently helps him pick a character. Uraraka whispers, she's cute and kind of chaotic, pick Isabelle. He does. He mostly button mashes. He does not expect to win. But somehow, victory. The game flashes brightly. Kirishima yells. Shiro dives off the couch in shock. Tokoyami intones, he has been chosen by the Chaos Gods. And Izuku makes a sound. A soft, surprised little bark of laughter. Barely audible. Like a note struck for the first time in years, a sound pulled from a locked room deep inside him. He clamps his mouth shut right after, almost like he regrets letting it out. Everyone freezes for half a second. He blinks, realizing he made a sound. The controller shakes in his hands slightly. And then Mina cheers, loud and wild. Let's go! First game magic. In the din, he curls inward slightly, expecting someone to turn on him, only for the joy to continue. The room erupts again. Bakugo grumbles something like, teach button mashing luck, but he's watching Izuku out of the corner of his eye. As the room settles into that post-victory buzz, snacks passed around, new matches queued up, Kaminari insisting. On a rematch, in the name of honor, Midoriya quietly sets the controller down beside him. He still isn't smiling. Not really. But he isn't frowning either. His shoulders are just less hunched. Uraraka notices. She doesn't say anything, just nudges him gently with her elbow and grins. He gives a soft nod. Then Itazura, digging around for more snacks, calls out. Yo, Auntie Midoriya. Can I grab another juice from the fridge? Inko laughs softly. Go ahead, dear. Inko answers warmly from the hallway. And don't knock over that photo frame on the counter, it's one of my favorites. Roger that, Itazura calls back. He moves to grab the juice but pauses. The photo frame catches his eye. A small, candid picture in a green-gold frame. Whoa, he breathes. Guys, he says, unusually quiet. The others gather, one by one, drawn by the tone in his voice. There's a photo in a green-gold frame. A small boy with messy curls and round cheeks beams at the camera, holding up a lopsided All Might plushie like it's a treasure. His smile is radiant, the kind that makes you believe the world is still good. His eyes are bright, wide, and shining a vivid emerald. The room he's in is decked out with All Might merch. A few of them glance toward the present-day Izuku, who's crouched by the console with Kaminari and Siro, letting them explain how to switch characters. They look back at the photo. No one says a word. Yaoyorozu gently picks it up, turns it just slightly to block Izuku's line of sight. She sets it back down with care. Uraraka swallows hard. She saw his room on her way to the bathroom. It looked barren in comparison. That's the real him, Mina murmurs. Was, Kirishima replies, somber. No, Tokoyami's voice is firm. Just buried. A long silence follows. Then Ida quietly, sincerely. Then we have a duty. Uraraka nods. Bring it back. No, Itazura says with a rare seriousness in his voice. Make it brighter. Everyone looks at each other. A silent agreement passes between them. They don't bring it up to Izuku. They never mention the photo. But from that moment on, every silly group chat, every casual invite, every late-night dorm hangout or tutoring offer, they're all part of the same unspoken mission. They saw who he was. They'll help him remember. And when he shines again, it won't be because they saved him. It'll be because he realized he was never alone to begin with. Busts in Silhouette 1A group chat. Hero Huddle Superhero Brain Speech Balloon. Members: Kirishima, Uraraka, Ida, Yaoyorozu, Kaminari, Jair, Tokoyami, Azui, Shoji, Koda, Aoyama, Siro, Ojiro, Hagakure, Mina, Itazura, and more. No mobile phones. Midoriya not in chat, yet. Dragon Face Kirishima. Okay, not gonna lie. That was one of the most intense sparring sessions I've ever had. Dude launched a bone spear at my heart. And I still feel worse for him somehow. Cherry Blossom Uraraka. Right? He looked like he was gonna pass out just from stopping himself. He said, capture not kill, like it was a foreign language crying face. Cyclone Kenzen, Itazura. Probably was foreign. Man's got villain PTSD coded into his muscle memory. His quirk activation has the same energy as a landmine. Vima. Sparkles so dramatic, but also quite tragic. His eyes did not sparkle today. Collision Kaminari. Bro, I joke a lot, but he really looked like he expected to get hit for messing up. Like, flinching at kindness levels of messed up downcast face with sweat. Brain Yaoyorozu. I reviewed his stances afterward. He wasn't attacking with reckless strength, he was targeting weak points automatically. Pressure points. Arteries. Kill zones. That's trained behavior. Superhero Ida. Indeed. It is not simply poor control. It is control honed for a different purpose. Frogface Tsu. That's really sad. He fights like someone who thinks everyone's his enemy, Ribbit. Guitar Gyre. Also? Kirishima played it off so chill. But I saw him subtly checking if he was bleeding. That bone spike was an inch from trauma center territory. Ribbon Hagakure. The scariest part wasn't his quirk. It was how quiet he went. Like the silence after a car crash. Disappointed face. Spider Zero. Enla was ready to tape him down. But then he just collapsed instead. Dude's nerves are held together with shame and spit. Bonojiro. I don't think it's shame. I think it's fear. He's terrified of himself. Fire Mina. And yet he said, that was pretty fun, after sparring. Like? Who are you? Who hurt you? We know someone hurt you. We want to fight them. Crescent Moon Tokoyami. He is a revenant of pain. A cursed flame barely doused. Yet still he walks among us. Lightbulb Coda. Ice Cube Rabbit Face, sent photo. Translation, gave him water. Fluffy support squad assembled. Brain Yairozu. You did well, Coda. That was kind. He seemed almost shocked that it wasn't a trick. Skull Itazura. I want to know what those assholes did to him. But also, I kinda don't want to know. Not because I don't care, but because I'm scared of how bad it actually is. Cherry Blossom Uraraka. But I want him to know he's safe. That he's allowed to be human again. Dragonface Kirishima. We can't make that happen overnight. But we can be here every step of the way. Dude needs a village. Good thing he landed in the weirdest, loudest, most ride or die one flex biceps. Superhero Ida. Let us resolve, as his classmates and future comrades, to earn his trust. One kind act at a time. Collision Kaminari. I vote we make him cookies. Guitar Gyre. You can't bake, Sato however. Collision Kaminari. Then you make them and I'll stand there dramatically holding the tray. Brain Yairozu. I'll assist. I have a recipe for soft matcha cookies good for grounding and not too sweet. Ribbon Hagakure. Yes. Sensory-friendly snack squad go woman running dashing away. Cyclone Kenzen. Itazur. Next mission. Operation Make Him Think Hugs Are Legal. Crescent Moon Tokoyami. He must first learn that he himself is not a weapon. Dragonface Kirishima. He will. We'll show him. Frogface Tsu. Group hug pending. Collision Kaminari. Pending? I'm hugging that nerd the second we get consent and or trauma greenlight face with steam from nose. Brain Yairozu. Let's be patient. Let's be gentle. Class 1. Redheart. When he is eventually added and scrolls up later at night, Midoriya can't help but feel something warm in his chest yet strangely painful. Mobile phone Class 1A group chat. Hell-dormed but hopeful. 2154 Midoriya's apartment. The faint sound of Inko bustling in the kitchen can be heard. A small pile of snacks sits on the coffee table. Kenzen bone drop of blood. Can someone please explain how Midoriya used Kirby like a strategic war crime? This is a call-out post. I need answers. Kaminari high voltage. No items, no mercy, no soul. You got vaporized, bro. Honestly, I'm still shook. Yairozu Cherry Blossom. I've just called the car service. Those who came with me should be outside within the next 5 minutes. Please double-check if you've left anything behind. Folded hands. Midoriya. Thank you so much for letting us visit your apartment. It means a lot that you trusted us with your space. Ashita woman dancing. No, but seriously, guys, did you see? He didn't leave the room once. Even when things got loud. I'm telling you, that's huge progress for him. Tokoyami New Moon. He sat in the shadows but did not disappear into them. That quiet strength, it spoke volumes. Kirishima Fire. Dude, that's so manly, it made me want to cry. Loudly crying face. Also, Midoriya, if you ever want to main King DDD, you have my full support. We'll be your hype squad. Uraraka Shooting Star. He didn't say much, but when he looked at someone he really looked. That kind of presence? It matters more than words sometimes. Gyra Guitar. My man took out 3 people with base Kirby, no flashy moves, just pure skill and timing. Respect. Also, full confession, I may have secretly filmed some of it for a future class memory montage. Coda Rabbit Face mobile phone off. Rabbit Face curled up next to his leg, and he didn't flinch this time. He even blinked slowly at her. According to Coda's research, that means trust. Rabbit 2 hearts. Ida Robot Face. Let us all take pride in today's progress but continue to respect Midoriya's pace. And if you're reading this, Midoriya, you did well. You were present. That is more than enough. Midoriya Footprints Green Square. I'm still figuring things out. But, thanks for being loud and weird and staying anyway. It meant more than I can say. Kenzen Bone Drop of Blood. You better not make me cry in the group chat. I will sue. Also, rematch tomorrow. I'm gonna throw you into a warp star with my soul. No mercy. The chat quiets as the night deepens, the faint hum of city sounds leaking through Midoriya's windows. Uraraka Shooting Star, 2:07 a.m. Can't sleep. Just thinking about how Midoriya let us into his space tonight, like, actually into it. Feels like a door open somewhere. I don't want to mess that up. Kenzen Bone Drop of Blood, 2:08 a.m. You won't. None of us will. We're not here to kick down his walls. We're just waiting on the porch with snacks until he's ready. Uraraka Shooting Star, 2:09 a.m. That's the kindest visual I've ever read. I hope he knows that's what this is. Kenzen Bone Drop of Blood, 2:09 a.m. We'll remind him. Even if it takes 1,000 porch nights. Ida Robot Face, read at 2:02 a.m. Blueheart. Aizawa Sensei Eye, Sunglasses, 2:11 a.m. Go to sleep. Training resumes at no cutting slack for sentimentality on 2 hours of rest. Kenzen Bone Drop of Blood, 2:12 a.m. You first, respectfully, see. 2:12 a.m. Seen by Midoriya Green Circle, Aizawa. As days turn into the first week, Midoriya starts to find his rhythm with the class chaos. Itazura Bone Drop of Blood. Post picture. Beer can with All Might's face on it. Caption. I am beer. Beer mug collision. Kaminari high voltage. Replies with a picture. A sheet of paper with All Might's face printed on it. Caption. I am sheer. Memo face with tears of joy. Zero straight ruler. Joins in. Post picture. All Might's face photoshopped onto a deer. Caption. I am deer. Deer grinning squinting face. All Might flexed biceps. Posts a selfie, super close-up. Caption. I am near. Ice fire. Itazura Bone Drop of Blood. I am fear, holy crap Sensei XD. Ashido woman dancing, he memes. Midoriya footprints green square. Post picture. All Might's face glowing softly photoshopped onto a comforting light bulb. Caption. I'm here. For this. Light bulb sparkles. Kirishima fire. Midoriya's got the best lines, no contest. Uraraka Shooting Star. Aw Midoriya sparkling heart that's so perfect. Gyra guitar. This chat is gold, and so is Midoriya's heart. Ida Robot Face. Presence and spirit noted and appreciated. Tokoyami New Moon. The light in the darkness. Koda Rabbit Face. Rabbit Face approves. We all need a light sometimes. Midoriya footprints green square. Thanks, everyone. Chapter 6, Foundation. The night ended quietly. Yaoyorozu, Ida, and Uraraka helped Izuku clean up the discarded wrappers and controllers as everyone headed home. Ida and Yaoyorozu gave Inko a polite bow, thanking her for allowing them over and for the snacks. Normally, such gatherings are on Fridays, Ida noted. We would love the opportunity to do this again or perhaps regularly, with your permission, Ms. Midoriya. And I can help provide snacks next time, Yaoyorozu added. Feeding nearly an entire classroom of teenagers must get costly. Inko smiled warmly. That would be lovely. I can see that you're all shaping up to be wonderful heroes. You're all welcome here anytime. With a final wave, his friends left. Silence settled over the apartment, the buzz of laughter fading into memory, replaced with a beat of silence. Inko turned to Izuku, the same warm smile on her face. Did you have a good time, sweetie? They seem to care about you already. Izuku looked down at his scarred hands. A faint twitch pulled at his cheek. It felt good. He tried not to think about the games he used to play with Tamura. That wasn't the same. This was different. As he lay down, he pulled up the group chat again. The messages were still coming. Still light. Still kind. He didn't reply. But they really wanted to reach him, didn't they? A warm feeling bloomed in his chest. So why did it still hurt? The next day wasn't too different from the last. The class greeted him with smiles and warmth. Even Bakugo, who stared at him, unreadable, eventually turned away without a word. That felt like progress. Izuku managed to get through training without shutting down. That was something. Sparring with Ojiro felt good, solid, grounded. Once they found their rhythm, they started to pick up speed. Izuku adjusted his moves, changed tempo, which seemed to make Ojiro grin. Some of the others in the room began watching too. Just watching. Not judging. Not waiting for him to fail. That difference felt strange, like sunlight on skin that had forgotten warmth. It felt. Day 3 was better. The sparring room echoed with energy, students shouting, laughing, challenging each other. It was Izuku versus Kirishima again. This time, Izuku was the one to initiate. He charged in with a bone spear extending from his arm. Just before contact, he blinked out, blindside activated, then reappeared behind Kirishima, the burning tip of his spear aimed low. Flame tongue. Spear-like bones. Precision. The attack landed squarely on Kirishima's shoulder. It didn't pierce, just knocked him off balance and onto the mat. For a breathless moment, Izuku froze. Had he gone too far? But then, "Dude, that was awesome!" Kirishima shouted, grinning from the floor. The others cheered in agreement. Uraraka lit up as she met his eyes. "That was amazing! With moves like that, you'll be a pro in no time." Izuku blinked. He didn't quite smile. Not yet. But something like hope sparked in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, she was right. On day 4, All Might was waiting for him, just before homeroom. Larger than life as Salways, but relaxed, his smile welcoming. Midoriya approached sheepishly, feeling a mix of gratitude and resentment, unsure how to resolve the two. That the feeling of, "Where were you?" clung to his ribs. Why didn't he save me earlier? I'm glad he finally did. Both he and All Might walked together towards the homeroom. "I heard about your spar with young Kirishima the other day, an exciting match without so much as a scratch. That's no small thing, young Midoriya," All Might commented, causing Izuku to look at his shoes for a moment. "It's getting easier with drills. They don't seem afraid of me." He pauses, his voice low. "I still froze when he hit the mat." All Might nods. "It can be hard to recontextualize old habits, but today you found the sweet spot. Even if you can't always find it, that is still progress. Young Itazura might even be able to help you further with that spear-like bones quirk of yours." "Not that he gave you," he said, "yours?" A faint voice echoed in his head. Izuku hummed in thought as a voice piped up behind them. "Trash-talking me already, you two?" Itazura says jokingly, taking a bite of a protein bar. "Ah, young Itazura. I was just mentioning to young Midoriya that he might look to you for help with finer control over his spear-like bones quirk." Itazura nods, walking beside the other two. "Definitely. I'm sure Aizawa-sensei would be alright with that. I dropped that last spar in the group chat. You were pretty badass, Midoriya." Itazura steps in front of the group and opens the door, loudly proclaiming, "Time to learn why hero PR training needs a full semester." Izuku lets out a quiet, surprising even him. Unknown to him, Itazura looks to All Might with a wide-eyed smile, mouthing to All Might, "Almost," to which All Might gives a quiet thumbs up, and while his smile didn't fade, there was a weight behind his eyes. The two students would take their seats as others filed in, and All Might began his lesson. "Good morning, Zygotes. Today's lesson is one that many heroes at the start of their career find themselves answering in one way or another," he announces to the class, before stepping to the side and gesturing to the board. Scenario 3B, Villain down, Civilian crying. Location, abandoned shopping center, mid-evacuation. Villain, immobilized, unconscious, but breathing. Civilian, child, around 6, unhurt but sobbing near rubble. Nearby, the collapsed structure could shift at any moment. Prompt, who do you prioritize? What risks do you weigh? All Might gestured to the screen. This is the kind of choice you don't prepare for with power. Only judgment. You have 5 seconds before debris shifts again. You can only move once. Silence settled for a beat. Kirishima raised a hand. "I'd go for the kid. The villain's already down. That's not just about safety, it's humanity." Tsuyu puts her finger to her chin. "But if the villain wakes up, you've created a bigger threat. They might lash out again, Karo. That's where you call backup. What if you restrain them first, then get the kid?" Joas. And in those extra seconds, the rubble falls. All Might says in a serious tone, I'd save the civilian, even if it means the villain might get up." Midoriya says, his eyes staring at something 1,000 yards away. A Nomu barely restrained, a heroine restrained beside it. No matter the choice, he must kill, or death is an absolute certainty. Hesitation, followed by blood, and all for one's quiet disappointment. Her unblinking gaze burns in his vision, even when he is pulled back by All Might's voice. Because? Because I've seen what happens when you don't. He says, quieter now. He could still hear the scream that hadn't finished. Could still feel the blood cooling on his hands. A lesson paid for in someone else's life. The classroom is silent for a moment, Ida and Uraraka looking to each other, and then to Izuku. Itazura's brow furrows in contemplation as Bakugo loudly breaks the silence. Oh, so scary. If you beat the villain right, you won't have to worry about it. The kid won't have to cry anymore if you beat the villain right. And if you don't, you only wind up raising the body count. Itazura counters dryly. You do what it takes, Bakugo growls, his jaw tensing. Even if what it takes breaks you? Izuku asks, his voice still small and hollow, as though he's speaking from a distance nobody else quite fully grasps. Bakugo stares at him. Really stares. It's not anger this time. Not competition. Not even frustration. It's confusing. Concern, disguised as contempt. The hell happened to you? He mutters, quieter than expected. No fire. Just the first flicker of dread. Midoriya doesn't answer. He just blinks slow, distant like he didn't hear the question, or like he's not ready to answer it yet. His eyes were just as hollow as his voice. The silence stretches. Itazura looks between the two, his voice carefully neutral. So, field medics and trauma counselors. Got it. A few chuckles ripple out Kirishima, Kaminari, even Yaoyorozu offers a tiny, polite laugh. The break gives All Might space to step in. This is why we practice ethics now, not later. His voice is calm, but his eyes settle briefly on Izuku. Because real decisions don't give you time to think, only time to choose. I have had civilians I couldn't save. I have had villains get back up, only to help drag more out of danger. You never know what the situation will evolve into. Itazura thinks for a moment before responding. I think, no matter what, you save the civilian. If the villain gets back up and attacks, you respond accordingly, but otherwise, you try to save as many people as possible. And if the villain stays unconscious and dies in the rubble, I wouldn't exactly call that a full win either. That's still a human life we could hold in our hands. All Might nods. Not everyone comes to that conclusion, but that is a good way to think. The lesson continues. Midoriya sits curled in on himself through the rest of it. As class ends, Midoriya is one of the first to get out of the room, though Uraraka and Ida are not far behind. Bakugo sits a moment, stewing in words unspoken. Before he leaves, Itazura spares a look at Bakugo and sends a quick text as he exits. Itazura, hey, Uraraka. Time bomb's ticking. Uraraka, tie for the heads up. Walking Midoriya to the sparring room. You think Bakugo knows something we don't? Itazura, yes, but we can't do anything until one or the other shares it willingly. What Midoriya said earlier, I'm not sure I like the implication. Uraraka puts her phone away to her side, and Ida and Midoriya talk about the day's mathematics. Lesson trying to keep the mood light. Izuku responds quietly, but his steps are still unsteady, like he's walking a tightrope only he can see. Once again, everyone paired off. This time, it was him vs Mina. Mina began with some light stretches. All right, Midoriya. This one's gonna be more of a dance fight than an actual fight. Let's work on that dexterity, she said with a cheerful grin that Izuku found mildly disarming. Dance, fight, he echoed, unsure. Yeah. Just follow my moves for a bit. She started guiding him through some basic footwork, helping Izuku find his rhythm. His movements were still awkward, but the tension in his shoulders began to ease. Eventually, he launched into a spinning backhand only for Flame Tongue to activate mid-move. Mina skillfully backflipped away as a ring of fire erupted around Midoriya, floating in the air for a heartbeat before dissipating. Whoa! That's a neat trick, Midoriya, Mina said, grinning. Great way to get people to back off. I'm sorry. That almost hit you. I didn't mean to. But Mina stepped forward and placed a warm, gentle hand on his shoulder, a stark contrast to the chilling, crushing grip of his father. Dude, don't worry about it. If I'm gonna be a hero, I've gotta have quick reflexes anyway. Besides, we've taken hits from Bakugo before. It's not like we don't know how to handle burns. Nearby, Siro and Kaminari wind up flying into a wall mat after an explosion rings out. We're okay. She raised her fist in the air. See? Let's focus on the fact that the move you pulled was awesome. Off to the side, Yaoyorozu nodded thoughtfully. Indeed. If you find yourself surrounded by enemies, that flame circle technique is a smart way to create distance. Use your flames to control the battlefield and limit how much of it your opponent can use. Midoriya nodded, feeling a little steadier. Then an idea came to him, a faint analytical spark. All right. Hey, Mina, actually, I was wondering. Do you think, with the right viscosity, your acid could smother flames? Mina's eyes sparkled. Let's test it out. I can up the viscosity and we'll see if it works. She looked over toward Aizawa. Aizawa-sensei, do we have anything we don't mind getting burned? The teacher let out a tired sigh, though there was a small smile hidden behind his scarf. We've got some training dummies. Itazura and Kirishima broke last week in the back. Only burn one at a time, understood? The two nodded and headed for the supply closet. Inside, they found a few snapped-up dummies tossed off to the side. It turned out the answer was yes. With the right viscosity, Mina's acid could smother the flames, cutting off their fuel source until they smoldered out. That was a brilliant idea, Midoriya. Who knows how many people I could save with that? Mina said cheerfully. Midoriya blinked. His analytical side can be used to save? He thinks to himself as he goes to sit on a nearby bench, watching the others finish their matches. He curls inward slightly, reflecting on what had just happened. The spike of fear as his quirk activated, Mina's reassurance contrasted with the memory of his father. Off to the side, Bakugo narrows his eyes. Time bombs ticking. As students file out, Mina's laugh makes his ears ring. Bakugo, however, hangs back, and in response, Uraraka and Ida look at each other and nod, standing just outside the door. Midoriya gulped as Bakugo approached. His stance was aggressive, and there was an intense look in his eyes that made Midoriya curl inward a little more. You're shaking like a leaf. Is that how it is now? You run with villains, only to come here scared out of your mind? Bakugo started, causing Midoriya to curl inward a bit more. Midoriya tried to stammer a response, but came up empty. 'Cause the Deku I knew, wasn't this demon scared of his power? You couldn't wait to show it off. And now you can't even handle basic FING training? He asked, his voice rising in irritation. Midoriya winced. His hands balled into fists on his knees. I didn't mean for it to happen. It happens. I can't always control. Bakugo cut him off with a growl. Control? You think anyone here's got full control right now? We're 15, This, he jabbed a finger toward the charred dummy in the corner, is exactly what this place is for. Midoriya's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm not scared of the fire. I'm scared of who I become when it's lit. Bakugo's eyes flared, but he didn't yell. Instead, he leaned in closer, his voice dropping low and sharp. Who are you? What, you think you're some kind of murdering lunatic? Midoriya flinched. You're not, Diamenit, Bakugo growled. You think I wouldn't notice how fast you backed off the second Mina smiled at you? You panicked, but you didn't lash out. You didn't go feral. You listened. Midoriya looked up, eyes wide. How? Bakugo huffed. You think I'm stupid? I saw what happened. You looked like you were ready to claw your own hands off the second she got close. Midoriya swallowed. I didn't want to hurt her. Bakugo's mouth twisted. Then stop acting like it's inevitable. You pulled the move, you learned from it, and you talked to her about strategy. That's not a villain, Deku. That's a demon good start. There was silence for a beat. Then Bakugo added, quieter, without looking at him. You scare easily now. I get it. But you don't scare me. You never did. As he says this, Bakugo pictures the smaller, happier Deku that was so DMN happy about finally getting a quirk. Midoriya's breath caught. I'm sticking around, Bakugo muttered. So either blow up or get up, but stop making everyone wait for you to shatter. With that, he walked toward the door. Outside, Uraraka and Ida straightened as he passed. Bakugo gave them a look, just a flicker, and nodded once. A silent handoff. Midoriya stared at the floor, heart thudding. The bench beneath him felt more solid than it had minutes ago. Then Uraraka's voice broke the quiet. Hey, we saved one dummy. You up for round 2, or should we take a breather at study hall? Midoriya stared at his knees for a moment, breathing. I think we should go. I need to think, he says quietly. The 2 other students nod and walk him down the hall. Study hall was silent, aside from Midoriya receiving help with his classwork. It gave him time to reflect on what Kaken said. Logically, he knows he isn't back there anymore, and that these students are being trained to be able to survive against people like him. At that thought, his brow furrows. Not like him. That's why he's here, isn't it? To be better, to try? His thoughts were interrupted by the school bell dismissing the students. Midoriya felt his phone buzz. The group chat had been active, though Midoriya mostly lurked. It seems he was pinged. Kenzen brain drop of blood. Midoriya. Serious question. How the hell do you not know what an escort mission is? Midoriya green circle blue book. I mean I kinda do? I just never really played games like that much. Kirishima flexed biceps fire. Bro what? A Shido artist palette alien. Wait. You're telling me you never played Smash with Shigaraki or whatever? Midoriya green circle blue book. Shigaraki mostly played League, Fortnite, and Call of Duty. He got mad when I beat him. Really mad. So I stopped playing. Kenzen brain drop of blood. Dog, he was a toxic gamer too? I'm gonna need a minute. Uraraka cherry blossom telescope. Oh my god, that explains so much. Ida mechanical egg books. I presume you mean to imply his aggression in combat extended to digital arenas? Kirishima flexed biceps fire. Nah man, I bet he rage quit on voice chat and threw his controller. Midoriya green circle blue book. He snapped a keyboard once. I wasn't even playing against him that time. Kenzen brain drop of blood. What rank was he? I bet he was hard stuck silver and blamed support players. Midoriya green circle blue book. He kept yelling about how hand-holding cowards deserve to lose, so. Yeah, probably. He did lose his sheet at someone maining Mercy. A Shido artist palette alien. Oh. Shigaraki was a solo Q in Cell. Tokoyami new moon bird. A tragic tale of darkness and broken matchmaking. Zero spiderweb video camera. I can't breathe, this is killing me. Kenzen brain drop of blood. Midoriya, I need you to understand how deeply funny it is. That the future symbol of villainy got schooled in Fortnite by a gremlin with anxiety. Midoriya green circle blue book. I wasn't that good. Just better than him. Which apparently was a crime. Uraraka cherry blossom telescope. Yeah, well now you've got us. And we don't scream at teammates when we lose, smiley face. A Shido artist palette alien. Except Bakugo, but we love him anyway. Bakugo bomb firecracker. Talk sheet get blasted. Midoriya green circle blue book. That I guess it's just weird, you know? Shigaraki was awful. But in a messed up way. He was also kind of the closest thing I had to a brother back then. Chat pauses for a beat. Ida mechanical egg books. That must have been complicated. I appreciate you trusting us with that, Midoriya. Kirishima flexed biceps fire. Dude. I don't even know what to say except we've got your back now. Uraraka cherry blossom telescope. You don't have to carry that kind of history alone. Not anymore. Kenzen brain drop of blood. Can't promise I won't still roast him. But yet, we're not gonna let that be your only brother story. A Shido artist palette alien. Group hug. Mandatory. Shoji octopus. I can bring snacks. Silence and snacks. Midoriya green circle blue book. Thanks. You guys are the best. Really. And as promised on a Friday, everyone returned to the Midoriya residence for more Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. Yaoyorozu brought snacks, and Sato even brought homemade cupcakes. Inko couldn't help but smile as her new home was filled with laughter and teenage chaos, with her son in the middle. She never thought her home would be this loud again. The start of the second week would play out a little better. Midoriya had found his rhythm with sparring, and even pulled the fire ring move on purpose, forcing Dark Shadow back as he closed in on Tokoyami. You are learning to repel the darkness rather than be consumed. Tokoyami would say after the match, Dark Shadow giving a thumbs up. Instead of a study hall, Izuku would have his first meeting with Hound Dog, the school's guidance and Quirk counselor. Ida helped Izuku set the meeting up, informing Aizawa of where Midoriya would be going. Itazura walks from the opposite direction, spotting Midoriya, and offering a quiet thumbs up. Izuku found himself standing outside a nondescript office on the second floor of the East Wing. The door was wide, reinforced at the edges. Beside it a plaque read, Ryo Inui, Hound Dog. Student Support and Behavioral Wellness. He hesitated, hand half raised. The hallway was quiet, sterile, but the doorknob was worn, like it had been used often. He knocked twice. From inside, a rough bark followed by a booming voice. Art, come in. Door's not gonna open itself unless your Quirk is hands. Izuku opened the door slowly, half expecting something clinical. What he found was strange and surprisingly warm. The office was big, with mismatched furniture. A beat-up couch with a massive blanket draped over it, a couple of bean bags in one corner, a desk stacked with papers and tennis ball, and a yoga mat rolled up near a scratching post that looked like it had seen better days. The walls were painted a calming green. A cracked open window let in a breeze that smelled like trees and faintly dog. Hound Dog sat behind the desk, wearing a hooded sweatshirt pulled over his usual hero gear. His muzzle was still in place, but his ears perked up as he saw Izuku enter. His tail gave a lazy wag. Midoriya, right? The pro-hero asked, gesturing to the couch. Sit wherever. No rules in here unless you start chewing furniture. Izuku stepped cautiously inside and sat in the farthest corner of the couch, posture stiff. Yes. Thank you. Hound Dog reached for a clipboard on his desk, flipped it open, then promptly tossed it behind him. Nope. Not doing that today. No assessments. No tests. Not a mission. You just talk, or you don't. Up to you. Izuku blinked. That wasn't what he'd expected. He folded his hands in his lap. Mr. Aizawa said it was part of reintegration. I didn't know this was required. Nothing's required but honesty, and even that has a grace PRD. Hound Dog leaned back, one leg crossed loosely over the other. This isn't about fixing you. You're not broken. This is about helping you feel human again. Whatever that means to you. Izuku stared down at the rug. His voice, when it came, was quiet. Everyone keeps being kind. He didn't say it with gratitude. More like confusion. I don't know what to do with it. Hound Dog nodded once, thoughtfully. Most rescue dogs bite the first hand that feeds them. Doesn't make them bad. Just means they learned pain first. That hit harder than Izuku expected. He stiffened, jaw tight. I'm not a dog. You're right. You're a 15-year-old kid who was thrown into hell. Hound Dog didn't flinch. You fought your way out. Now you're here, and your brain is still chewing on the idea that safety equals punishment. It doesn't. Izuku looked away. The couch felt softer than he wanted it to. After a moment, he said, I wasn't supposed to survive, that I never expected to wind up here, with everyone. He made me think there wasn't anything else I could be. That's over now. But it isn't. His voice cracked just a little. He's still out there. I can feel it. I can't stop looking over my shoulder. Hound Dog's ears flattened. He didn't interrupt. And I'm here, Izuku said, voice growing tight, with all these people trying to help me, and I can't even look them in the eye half the time. I don't know how to be normal. What if you don't have to be? Hound Dog said gently. Normal's just a drier setting. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what keeps you whole. Silence. Then Izuku asked, almost accusing. Did Itazura tell you to say that? Hound Dog barked and laughed. That gremlin? But he did put a fire under Nisa's tail when he got here. Said, and I quote, this is the best hero school in the country. Why the hell am I going off campus for therapy? You've got a bunch of hormonal superpowered teenagers running around with no emotional support. Izuku blinked. He's the reason you're this now? Expanded my role. Got me training with support staff, school counselors, trauma specialists. Said it wasn't just about DSPLN. Said students needed someone who could growl and listen. A beat passed. "You're welcome, by the way," Hound Dog added gruffly. Izuku stared at the rug, then said softly, "I don't know where to start." "Try this," Hound Dog said, voice lower now. "Tell me what hurts the most. The first thing that comes up. Doesn't have to make sense." Izuku opened his mouth, then shut it. Then, barely above a whisper, "I can't stop thinking of my quirks as anything but tools for murder." He didn't know why he said it. It just tore out of him like a splinter he'd gripped too tightly for too long. Hound Dog didn't flinch. Just nodded. "Okay," he said. "Then we'll start from there." Izuku looked down at his hands. "I used one to steal the Nomu's quirks. To weaken it. So All Might could finish the fight. But before that, when I was still with him, I've killed people." He swallowed hard and his voice was hollow. "And I don't know how much of that was me, and how much of it was my father pulling the strings." Hound Dog's expression didn't change. His voice stayed calm, grounded. "Does it matter?" Izuku blinked. "Of course how could it not matter?" Hound Dog raised one paw-like hand, not to interrupt, just to hold space. "I mean," he said slowly, "it matters that it happened. It matters that it hurt you. But the difference between your hands and his? You're asking the question. He never did." Izuku's throat felt like it was closing. He gritted his teeth. "That doesn't undo what I did." "No. But it means you're the one carrying it. Not him. And that means you get to decide what those hands do next." Izuku's fists clenched in his lap. He hated how shaky they looked. He forced the next words out anyway. "I don't want to be afraid of them. Of me." "They're not his anymore," Hound Dog added. "They're yours. And we'll figure out what you want to do with them." He scratched something on a sticky note and passed it over. "Same time next week. Think on this. If you weren't afraid of your quirks, what would you use them for?" Izuku stared at the note in his hands, the question ringing in his mind like a challenge. He gave Hound Dog a nod, and the session ended. As he exited the room, he spotted Uraraka and Jiro at the end of the hall, chatting away before looking over to him and waving. "Midoriya, how did your first session go?" Uraraka asked. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck in response. Good? I think. He gave me something to think about at least." Jiro nods. "That's a start. Want to listen to some tunes? I've always found it helps when I'm dealing with a lot." She offers, holding out an earbud. Izuku nods and accepts the earbud, letting the music run through his mind. The next few weeks passed not in leaps, but in quiet steps. Midoriya kept to his study sessions with Ida and Yaoyorozu, sometimes joined by Uraraka or Jiro. Occasionally, Kaminari would drop in with snacks, and Kirishima would drag him into the room for totally chill, bro-approved combat footage breakdowns. More and more, it felt less like tolerating company and more like being included without demand. Sometimes Midoriya would even help Mina and Kaminari with their classwork. He continued his sessions with Hound Dog. Some days were harder than others. He left more than once with red eyes and clenched fists, but that question lingered like a thread he couldn't untie. If you weren't afraid of your quirks, what would you use them for? He didn't have a full answer initially, but one began to take shape not long after a hero ethics class focused on community service. All Might stood at his desk, larger than life as always. "Now then. As you know, one of the most visible aspects of heroics is fighting villains and having them carted away. Civilians love to see heroes protecting them. However," he lifted a finger, voice growing more serious, "that is not all a hero is. Nor should it be. Being a hero is more than combat and rescue. It's also about serving the community as a whole." Some murmurs passed through the class before Itazura raised his hand, leaning back casually in his chair. "Yes, young Itazura?" All Might asked, his attention focused. "So, like Dagoba Beach?" Itazura replied. "People have been dumping trash there for years. It's basically an illegal junkyard now, and no one's done squat about it. What if we put this lesson into action, Sensei? A class initiative to restore the beach." A few heads turned. Ida and Yaoyorozu nodded immediately. Kaminari groaned. Ugh, that sounds like a lot of work. Itazura shrugged. Hey, being a hero is work. Punching villains isn't the only thing we're good for. I can work out a schedule, Tenya offered, adjusting his glasses. Maybe get some backing from my brother for proper garbage disposal. I'll assist with logistics and disposal procedures as well, Yaoyorozu added. Sato and I can handle snacks. Kirishima grinned. Can't do manly community service on an empty stomach. All Might's smile widened as the class began tossing around plans, suggestions, and good-natured complaints. Through the noise, Midoriya's voice came softly. If you weren't afraid of your quirks, what would you use them for? I'd help, he said. Dagoba Beach is near where I used to live. It'd be nice to see it clean again. And with that, the idea was brought to and immediately approved by Principal Nizu. Over the course of the second week, Class 1A worked with Ingenium's agency to clean up Dagoba Beach, armed with quirks, sunscreen, and enough snacks to qualify as a mission ration pack. Using his strength quirk, Midoriya joined Sato in lifting a half-buried car out of the sand. Nearby, Uraraka floated an old fridge and loose debris towards separated piles, following directions from Yaoyorozu, who had a clipboard in one hand and a whiteboard scribbled with organization zones. Then, a thunderous boom shook the beach. I am here to assist in your endeavor, young heroes. All Might called out, cape flapping in the wind as he landed dramatically. Itazura, tendrils wrapped around several trash bags, barked a laugh. About time. We saved a pile just for you, Sensei. Ha! Then I shall not disappoint. All Might declared, striding toward the designated stack. Further down the beach, Kaminari stood with his hands on his hips, staring at a massive steel beam half buried in the sand. Siro wandered over, eyeing it. You think we'll need backup for this one? Kaminari tilted his head, thoughtful. Actually, I want to try something. Step back from the beam. Don't want you getting shocked if I screw this up. Siro blinked. Wait, you have a plan? Hey, just because I short-circuit when I overcharge doesn't mean I don't know my physics. Now move, Kaminari replied, eyes focused with rare determination. Siro backed up, more curious than worried. Kaminari rolled his shoulders, muttering as he began running a low current through his arms, carefully regulating the flow. Static hummed against his skin. He touched the steel beam, grounding the charge, then slowly increased the output. There was a crackling hum as the beam trembled and rose. Kaminari's arms lifted with it, guiding the massive hunk of metal through sheer electromagnetic force. Ha! Guys, I did it! Ida clapped, grinning widely. A clever use of electromagnetism, Kaminari. Please, keep practicing that maneuver, it's sure to come in handy. All Might let out a booming laugh. A wonderful display of ingenuity. Kaminari grinned as he began carrying the beam toward the metal pile, but halfway there, his expression faltered. The beam wobbled. His current flickered. Crap, no. Just before it fell, a green blur shot beneath it. Midoriya caught the beam in a perfect crouch, muscles tensing as he braced the impact. Dust puffed around his feet. Denki let out a shaky breath. Thanks for that, Midoriya. Nice catch. There was a twitch at Midoriya's cheek, the ghost of a smile. He nodded. Of course. Let's get this thing out of here, but we've got to run more tests with what you just did. That was awesome. Sato jogged over, calling out, Yo, surprise deadlift. But Midoriya rose with the weight like it was nothing. As the two deposited the beam, Hound Dog stood nearby, grinning at Midoriya. So, you figure out your answer? Izuku nodded in response. Yeah, Izuku said quietly. I want to use my quirks to help people. Hound Dog grinned, reaching out to ruffle his hair. Well, that sure sounds like a hero to me. The week passed by in a blur, but Midoriya managed to find purpose, like a small piece of himself had come out of hibernation. As a reward for cleaning the beach in record time, the students were allowed time to relax, enjoying the clean sand and waning sun as the fruits of their labor. By the end of the third week, the sports festival loomed large on the calendar. Excitement buzzed in the air, mixed with nerves and anticipation. And then came the message that lit up his phone late at night. 1A Mayhem and Homework. Kaminari, hey, it's almost festival time and y'all know what that means. Zero, Panic. Jiro, Chaos. Uraraka, all of the above. Kenzen, it means I am legally allowed to unleash my ultimate support playlist. Midoriya, you're listening to this. No arguments. Midoriya? Kenzen, that's the spirit. Yaoyorozu, I'll bring extra flashcards. Aoyama, glowing star, I shall blind the enemy with my radiance glowing star. Bakugo, I'm blocking all of you. Kirishima, love you too bro. Ida, please remember to get sufficient rest and hydration. Todoroki, I don't know what's happening but I'm still reading. Kaminari, Midoriya, you'd better be in this chat, you've been ghosting all day. Midoriya, sorry. Just catching up on homework. Uraraka, and probably thinking way too hard about everything face with steam from nose. Midoriya, maybe. Jiro, you're allowed to be excited too, you know. We've got your back. Kenzen, always. You're one of us. Midoriya stared at the screen, eyes tracing the cascade of messages and memes. It wasn't loud, or flashy, or perfect. But for the first time in what felt like years, his chest felt light. A small breath escaped him. Almost a laugh. He smiled. Bonus chapter. 1A Mayhem and Homework. Room created by Crown Yaoyorozu Momo. Calendar chat created for homework collabs, study sessions, event coordination. Pushpin pinned message. Schedule your study blocks or suffer. Manins levitating Ida Tenya. High voltage Kaminari Denki. High voltage Kaminari Denki. Did everyone see me figure out electromagnetism? High voltage Kaminari Denki. I moved a whole cell with my brain and a stick. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. It was a steel pipe. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. And pure dumb luck. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka? But yeah, we saw it, Professor Volt. Collision Bakugo Katsuki. That's not how it works, dunce face. Collision Bakugo Katsuki. Also, why the hell was Green Bean bench pressing construction debris like a toddler with foam blocks? Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. It wasn't that heavy? Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. I didn't think anyone was watching. Shark Kirishima Ijiro. BR. Shark Kirishima Ijiro. You deadlifted a whole butt vending machine to get the plastic bottle underneath. Shark Kirishima Ijiro. While apologizing to the machine. Shark Kirishima Ijiro. It's not even alive, dude. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. The guy apologized to like 7 objects today. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. 1 vending machine. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. 3 seagulls. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. 2 crabs. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. And Todoroki's left shoe. Cold face Todoroki Shoto. It was the respectful thing to do. Cold face Todoroki Shoto. The shoe was in his way. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Everyone shut up and listen. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Midoriya, surprise deadlift, Izu. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Is now officially part of my top 10 unhinged class moments. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Number 6, for reference, is Kaminari making a functional electromagnet out of scrap, a wire, and raw vibes. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Science. High voltage Kaminari Denki. I am an engineer. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. I must commend both of you. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. For your ingenuity, initiative, and surprisingly safe improvisation. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. But please wear back support next time you lift a vending machine, Midoriya. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. I was moments away from filing a hernia incident form. Yaoyorozu Momo. I had forms printed just in case. Crown Yaoyorozu Momo. And Midoriya, I still have your water bottle, don't forget to hydrate. Shortcake Sato Rikido. Also, Midoriya? I made those protein muffins you liked again. They'll be in the snack area. You earned it today. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. Thank you. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku, all of you. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. I didn't mean to make it a big deal. I just didn't want to stop helping. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. And that's why it was a big deal. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. Not the lifting. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. The fact that you cared enough to keep going even when you were exhausted. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. We noticed. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. I noticed. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Heart with arrow, heart with arrow, heart with arrow. High voltage Kaminari Denki. Is this a ship moment? Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. Oh my god. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. Shut up, let them have emotions. Shark Kurishima Ijiro, but also yes eyes. Beverage box Ojiro Mashareo. We all saw All Might watching too. Beverage box Ojiro Mashareo. The look on his face when Midoriya explained why he was helping. Beverage box Ojiro Mashareo. It hit different. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. He was very quiet. Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya, and smiling. Proudly. Cold face Todoroki Shoto. I stepped on a jellyfish. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka, again? Cold face Todoroki Shoto. It wasn't the same jellyfish. Cyclone Kenzen Itazu. Confirmed. Todoroki is the jellyfish reaper. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. May Poseidon have mercy on your souls. Sparkles Oyama Yuga. I sparkled so brightly, even the seagulls shielded their eyes. Sparkles Oyama Yuga. The ocean fears me. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. The ocean fears a lot of things, including electrical tape. High voltage Kaminari Denki. Shout out to me for not electrocuting the beach. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. That is progress. Octopus Shoji Mizo. You know what I noticed? Octopus Shoji Mizo. No one complained. Octopus Shoji Mizo. We just helped each other. That's rare. Good job, everyone. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. I'm still getting used to it. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. People being kind. Working together. Letting me be part of it. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. But I want to get used to it. Green Heart Midoriya Izuku. I really do. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. Then we'll make it easier. Sparkling Heart Uraraka Ochako. We'll keep showing up. Safety pin Jiro Kyoka. Because you're one of us. Shark Kirishima Ijiro. Flexed biceps Green Heart. High voltage Kaminari Denki. Ride or die baby. Cyclone Kenzen Itazura. Midoriya Izuku. Class 1 Thes Chaotic Neutral Sweetheart. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog has joined the chat. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog. I saw the log lift. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog. I'm not even mad. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog. But you better stretch before bed or I'm dragging you to my office in a blanket burrito. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog. That goes for all of you. Right Anger Bubble Hound Dog. Except Todoroki. Leave the jellyfish alone. Pushpin pinned by Man in suit levitating Ida Tenya. Ballot box with checked hydrate. Ballot box with checked stretch. Ballot box with checked Midoriya's part of this team. Ballot box with check Kaminari's science moment. Ballot box with checked jellyfish casualties. 2. Unconfirmed.